Chapter 1366. Even though you're not qualified, even though I, Lord Fatty, have left Dahua Academy, even though Teacher Rulin doesn't like clowns like you. Cough cough, of course, I don't mean that Teacher Rulin likes me. Fuck. Lord Fatty, I'll still bet with you. Fatty's words angered Tang Hu so much that his face turned green. However, Fatty himself was also embarrassed. Fuck, he didn't dare to explain. The more he explained, the worse it would get. Rulin, who was covering her mouth and laughing, was hard to guess. After all, everyone already knew that she should be the once famous Zhulu Academy's proud daughter, Meng Lan. How could she really like Fatty? Not to mention that they were not of the same generation, there were countless geniuses who pursued her in Zhulu Academy. There were countless people who were stronger than Fatty. Of course, this was what most people thought. However, Ruoxian frowned and looked at Rulin. In fact, only Ruoxian knew what Rulin was thinking. This isn't good, right? At this time, Chen Wanxiang had to say something. However, seeing their expressions, he could only shake his head and say, I'll take care of it during the agreement period. Outside of the agreement period, I can't do anything. Old man, please continue. Just listen. After Chen Wanxiang finished speaking, everyone, especially those who were participating in the ranking competition for the first time, became nervous and excited. They were nervous because of the cruel and dangerous rules of the competition. They were excited because of the reward offered by Dahua Academy. It was worth it for anyone to risk their lives. Chen Hao and Si Xian were surprised to find that the importance and cruelty of the ranking competition far exceeded their imagination. At the same time, Chen Hao also understood why the geniuses who signed the agreement for a short period of time would be trained. This was because the ranking competition was the most important factor in determining the grades of the academies. It could be said that it was determined by the rankings. Once the rankings were raised, the great world of CND would immediately renovate the facilities of the academies and receive rewards corresponding to the rankings. At the same time, if the rankings were lowered, they would be deprived of their original treatment. The top academies, including Zhulu Academy, only had 100 places. The first-rate academies had 3,000 places. The second-rate academies had more places, numbering in the millions. However, these were all fixed. If there was a promotion, there would definitely be a demotion. All the academies would be participating in the competition. From this, one could imagine how large the scale of the competition would be. For ordinary people, it would be impossible to organize such a competition. It could be said that this was the largest and most influential event in the great world of CND. On the same day, countless teams from various academies arrived one after another. Academies of different levels received different treatment and were arranged in different areas. Their range of activity was also limited to their respective areas. On the second day, the various academies continued to arrive one after another. Almost all of them had arrived before nightfall. On the third day, all the academies submitted the name list for the team competition and the information of the cultivators who had signed up for the individual competition. However, in these 3 days, most of the cultivators, including Chen Hao, were immersed in the final realization. Everything was done by the teachers of the academy. 3 days later, at 7 in the morning, Chen Hao awoke from his cultivation. I'm finally going to see it. It's finally going to begin. A hint of excitement and anticipation appeared on Chen Hao's face. Although there was no concept of time in cultivation, he felt that it had been a very long time since Chen Hao had parted with the girls. Moreover, at that time, he had been too reluctant to part with them. Now, he was about to see the girls, Chen Hao, Pan Long, and his other brothers and sisters. How could Chen Hao not be excited? What also made Chen Hao excited was the upcoming competition. It was a long-awaited excitement, the excitement of competing with the true geniuses of the great world of CND. Countless experiences had made Chen Hao understand that he was a person who was born to grow in battle. This had been proven countless times. Especially when facing strong opponents, it could stimulate his endless potential. That Sundara girl will definitely appear, right? My current strength should be on par with her. If we fight again, I won't be so passive. However, if it's just the way of the sword, it's still not enough. Chen Hao thought to himself. The academy ranking competition after returning for half a year was really too rushed. Even if Chen Hao's talent and comprehension were amazing, he couldn't completely comprehend the inheritance of the way of the sword contained in Miao Xian's vital yin in such a short time. After all, Miao Xian's level in the way of the sword had long surpassed her own level, and by a lot. Fuck, how can I, Chen Hao, be bound by a girl? I have my own way, not the way of the sword. Chen Hao suddenly realized that his mind was being controlled by his subconscious again, and cursed in his heart. However, after a moment, Chen Hao frowned again. Unexpectedly. Damn, it seems that I can only do my best. I'll start with the way of the sword, and when I can't hold on anymore, I'll restore myself. The desire in the depths of his heart made Chen Hao, who knew that he was being controlled, unwilling to resist. The strength of his subconscious was evident. All disciples, listen up, gather here immediately. After a moment, Dean Chen Wanxiang's voice directly sounded in the entire palace. Immediately, the disciples who were already prepared stepped out of their rooms and came to the hall. All of them were full of energy and fighting spirit. Chen Si. What surprised everyone was that when everyone had gathered, Chen Wanxiang called out Chen Si's name. Here. Si Xian looked slightly confused, but she still responded promptly. Xue Fian. Chen Wanxiang called out Xue Fian's name. Here. Before the start of the competition, a top academy, 10 first-rate academies, and 100 second-rate academies will be selected to perform unique skills. This time, we're lucky to be selected. After discussing with the teachers, we've decided to send the two of you to represent the Supreme of Hongmeng and Daluo Jingxian respectively to perform on the stage and show off the charm of our academy. This is also a rare opportunity for all of you. I hope you can seize it well. You didn't ask, did you? Dean, it's settled. Xue Fian, it's time for you to restore your real body. Chen Wanxiang asked for their opinions, but he didn't allow them to say anything. Dean. Xue Fian frowned slightly. Everyone looked at Xue Fian expectantly. From the beginning to the end, everyone knew that Xue Fian had hidden her real appearance and aura. Moreover, the cultivators who had participated in the endurance test had seen Xue Fian's real body when she was at her limit. She was an extremely cold and elegant beauty, comparable to Si Xian. You'll be exposed sooner or later. This is undoubtedly the best time. Chen Wanxiang said meaningfully. However, everyone present was a little confused. The dean had chosen Chen Si and Xue Fian and allowed Xue Fian to restore her real body. Obviously, he had taken a liking to their combined appearance and strength, which would attract cultivators to join the academy. However, why didn't he choose Wan Yishui, who had returned from the Imperial Star Secret Realm? After all, Xue Fian and Wan Yishui had both lost their vitaline bodies. Wan Yishui was stronger and more beautiful. Chapter 1367. Everyone, including Chen Hao, was slightly puzzled. At the same time, they were a little speechless at Chen Wanxiang's trendy way of attracting popularity. It was just like how universities on Earth used campus bells and campus hunks to attract juniors who wanted to apply for college. It was a little silly. However, just as Chen Wanxiang had said, this was indeed an excellent opportunity for Si Xian and Xue Fian to gather their providence. Set off. After seeing Xue Fian nod, Chen Wanxiang waved his hand and issued an order. Qi! Qi! In an instant, everyone soared into the sky. Under the lead of an elder from Zhulu Academy, they flew towards Zhulu Peak. Deer Chaser Peak was known as the #1 peak in the great world of CND. The peak was engraved with the most powerful runes in the world, and it also contained many miniature grotto heavens. Not to mention millions or tens of millions of disciples participating in the competition. Even if there were 10 times or 100 times more disciples participating in the competition, there would still be no problem. Moreover, it was guaranteed that all the spectators would be able to see it immediately. Rumble. Chi. Chi. At the top of Zhulu Peak, in the surroundings of the colossal training field, a loud boom would erupt every time an academy arrived. The entire vast and boundless Zhulu Peak seemed to tremble violently. Rays of resplendent light screens rose into the air at the same time, forming a paradise filled with dense qi. It was clearly a small space, but it could accommodate all the cultivators of an academy without affecting their perception of the outside world at all. One leaf, one Bodhi, one flower, one world. Here, he received a real physical examination. Amazing. As expected of a top-notch academy. Chen Hao and the others were shocked when they saw the arrival of the Taoist academy. Fuck, I can't sense the situation in the other grotto heavens. Immediately, Chen Hao released his powerful soul perception, wanting to check on the situation of the girls and his brothers and sisters. But what made him depressed was that his soul perception couldn't enter any of the small grotto heavens of the other academies. The 100 top-notch academies were located around the martial arts practice field, the area closest to it. The 3,000 first-rate academies were behind the 100 first-rate academies, followed by the second-rate and third-rate academies. The ranking system was very strict. Obviously, it was based on the ranking of the previous tournament. If you had woken me up earlier, we wouldn't have failed to notify them. You'll have to explain yourself when the time comes. Don't let them think that I'm hiding it from them. Si Xian sent him a telepathic message. How could that be? My woman isn't that stingy. It seems that we can only see her during the team competition. Chen Hao said. Chen Wanxiang had already explained the content and process of the team competition, so Chen Hao knew that they might have a chance to meet each other at that time, but it was not absolute. It would depend on luck. That was a truly dangerous battle where one could face a test of life and death at any time. Although there was a clear agreement not to kill indiscriminately, in a team competition, the number of deaths would be in the tens of millions or even hundreds of millions. This number sounded a little shocking, but compared to the total number of participants from all the top, first-rate, second-rate, third-rate, and fourth-rate academies, tens of millions were just a drop in the ocean. After all, a single main star of a second-rate academy had 1,000 schools, and 3,000 main stars meant that there were 3 million schools. Furthermore, each school had 200 teams, so just the number of participants from the second-rate academies alone was 600 million. Needless to say, there were even more third-rate and fourth-rate academies. There were at least 100 billion students. A team competition of such a scale was simply unimaginable for mortals. However, for cultivators who could travel billions of miles in an instant and have a perception of hundreds of millions of miles, or even billions of miles, it was possible. The Star River King has arrived. Suddenly, a magnificent voice resounded through the world. At the same time, endless celestial light poured down from the ninth heaven like the Milky Way. Immediately, an extraordinary old man, surrounded by 200 proud-looking young men and women, slowly came down from the void, stepping on the Milky Way. Thousands of Tao principles rolled under their feet, and their majestic aura pierced through the sky. At this moment, although there was no pressure on them, all the cultivators in the entire martial arts practice field and countless grotto heavens widened their eyes and silently watched the slowly descending team. It was not until the Star River King and the others took their seats that a buzz of discussion broke out. The Star River King. The Star River King. This is the Star River King. What a powerful aura. Look, that's the number one person in the great world of CND today, the Star River King. The young people who can follow him are the strongest geniuses of the Shao clan's Daluo Jingxian and the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. They are also participants in this individual competition. Among these 200 people, there will definitely be more than 10 people from the Daluo Golden Wonderland and the Grand Mist Supremacy realm who will enter the top 100 in the individual rankings. Moreover, the first place is very likely to be from them. Yes, the number one family, with a strong foundation, is much stronger than the first academy. The first academy can be replaced, but no one can shake the number one family. Yes. Only Queen Ying's Jade Girl Palace may be able to compete with the Shao clan, although the chances are not very high. That's right. I don't know how many lucky people will be recruited by the Shao clan or the Jade Girl Palace this time. Chen Hao looked up at the legendary Star River King, frowning and clenching his fists tightly. This is Yilan's love rival, the #1 immortal emperor who imprisoned Yilan for tens of millions of years. The look of admiration, and envy of hundreds of millions of people, the insufferably arrogant way of entering, the invisible aura of a superior being, it all made Chen Hao feel unparalleled pressure. Tens of millions of years ago, the #1 immortal emperor of today, the existence of a half-step immortal emperor, was not something he could compare to at all. Similarly, it was not something Yilan could compare to. So strong, is this really not an immortal emperor? Even the old god, who was hiding in the depths of Chen Hao's mind, was shocked at this moment. And without thinking, he sealed his aura. Although the other party would not pay attention to a small character like Chen Hao. So powerful, such a person can be said to have gathered the luck of the great world of CND. I am sure that he must also have the terrifying power of faith. Although the Star River King had almost completely restrained himself, the invisible aura still let Chen Hao see the convergence of the power of faith that was invisible to others. At this moment, the convergence came from the faith of countless cultivators present. Become stronger. If I want to set foot on the peak, the first thing I have to do is to surpass him. I still have a long way to go, but there is not much time left for me. Although Chen Hao was not very clear about the conflict between the Star River King and Yilan, he had a general idea. He had no reason not to stand on Yilan's side. Chapter 1368. This was not only because of Yilan's kindness, but also because of his brothers and sisters, family and friends, as well as the trillions of living beings in ancient chaos. Killing God Chen Hao had been pushed to the position of ancient chaos master. Even if it was only a title, it was the trust and worship of trillions of living beings. He had no choice but to shoulder this responsibility. However, the news of ancient chaos unification could not be hidden for long. Vast universe galaxies Shao family old ancestor had already fallen. It would take at most tens of thousands of years for news to reach the great world of CND before it would be exposed. At that time, the newly unified ancient chaos would face an even greater disaster. Time was tight. The Star River King's boundless aura made Chen Hao feel a great pressure. Fortunately, although Second Life was selfish, his position should still be the same as mine. Fortunately, I set this information to destroy. Second Fate had become a disciple of Zhulu Academy, and had even been accepted as a pro-disciple by the Celestial River King. All of this had gone beyond Chen Hao's expectations. Once the Celestial River King came to know of his true situation, he would definitely strangle him in the cradle and launch an operation against the ancient chaos boundless world. Old God. Master, what's the matter? I don't dare to expose my aura right now. Masters are as common as clouds. Are you sure you can hide from the Star River King's investigation of my memories? Master, since I woke up, as long as I say I can do it, when have I ever failed? Rest assured, as soon as you give the order, I will immediately block it. Anyone who finds out will only think that you are an unawakened memory of the endless cycle of reincarnation. Good. Don't joke with my life and yours. This time, everything is on you. Master, what do you want to do? You will naturally know when the time comes. King Ying has arrived. After a cup of tea's time, the old man's voice suddenly rose an octave. Only when a truly important person arrived would the old man announce it in such a manner. Everyone stopped clamoring at this moment and looked up at the void in unison. Hiss. The void was suddenly torn apart, and 7 colored rays of light spread out. One by one, women with graceful figures walked out of the rays of light, surrounding a beautiful woman who still retained her charm. Chen Hao's heart skipped a beat the moment he saw the beautiful middle-aged woman, who was Princess Ying. At the same time, in a certain academy in the top academy area, Long Ting also widened her eyes in surprise. Chen Shui, Hu Mainyang, and the others looked at Long Ting, who had slightly disguised her appearance and aura. Long Ting looked exactly the same as the lifelike naked female corpse found on Earth, and the beautiful middle-aged woman that appeared at this moment was an older version of Long Ting. At the same time, many of the students from the University of Chinese Studies also looked at Xi Xian. Xi Xian's appearance was similar to Prince Ying's. After all, Xi Xian's birth had a lot to do with Prince Ying. King Ying, an existence second only to the Star River King. Jade Maiden Palace. So beautiful. All of them were beauties, and all of them had undying bloodlines. If only I could have a Jade Maiden Palace disciple as my Tao companion. That's right, that's right. Any one of these 200 would do, these 200. Stop dreaming, these are the 200 most outstanding people of the Jade Maiden Palace, Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, and Grand Mist Supremacy Realm. How can we match up to them? The buzz of discussion did not hide their desire for the disciples of the Jade Maiden Palace, and even the disciples of the Shao family were no exception. It was certain that all the male disciples had feelings for the Jade Maiden Palace. Unfortunately, the Jade Maiden Palace only recruited female disciples. Otherwise, even the number one family, Shao family, would not be able to compete with the Jade Maiden Palace. Prince Ying. When he saw that even the Star River King had stood up to greet Prince Ying with a smile, and Prince Ying had also greeted him with a smile and sat down beside the Star River King, Chen Hao's gaze became slightly heated. He could see that the relationship between the two was very harmonious on the surface. It was not as awkward as the rumors in the cultivation world said. Buzz. No one knew that when Chen Hao looked at Prince Ying, he also activated the jade token in his mind that Yilan gave him, which was engraved with the word Ying. However, in the end, Chen Hao held back. This was not the time to expose himself, nor was it the time to meet Prince Ying. The new generation of Sword King, Chen Taishu, has arrived. After a long time, another big figure who shocked the whole martial arts arena finally arrived, the new generation of Sword King, Chen Taishu. This time, Chen Hao also looked carefully, and he was slightly emotional. The three most powerful people who had arrived so far were all related to him. Is this a person, or a sword? Chen Taishu, damn, his name is a bit similar to Dad Chen Wuliang's. It's fine if they are brothers, but why do I feel that they look a bit similar? There shouldn't be any connection, right? If there is, it's too damn unbelievable. After all, Dad's daughter is. I'm lucky, Miaoshuan is also. Chen Hao felt the invisible aura on Chen Taishu's body, and couldn't help but sigh. He didn't even have the qualifications to look at that kind of realm where man and sword were indistinguishable, but what made him sigh was that Chen Taishu and Dad Chen Wuliang were a bit similar. In the great world of CND, the cultivators who didn't have the opportunity to watch the academy ranking competition in person were all immersed in the celestial realm. Whether it was the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland, the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm, or the cultivators above the Dao Severing Perfected Immortal Realm, there was no exception. This was because in the Celestial Realm, the Alliance Center in every city was broadcasting the live broadcast of the Deer Chaser Peak. This was a matter that concerned the general trend of the world, and everyone was concerned. What Chen Hao didn't know was that in a city's Alliance Square, three figures were gathered together, staring at the huge live broadcast screen. 3 people, 1 man, and 2 women. Are you sure Tianxi and the others have come to the Celestial Emperor realm? Yes. Before I came, they had already decided. Now, according to the time, they should have reached the Celestial Emperor realm. If they really came, with Tianxi's talent, he would definitely be qualified to participate in this ranking competition, and his performance wouldn't be bad. Yes. We underestimated our talent before. I didn't expect that we could improve so much after missing the best molding period, let alone who was already very abnormal in the vast universe galaxy. I believe that once he gets used to this place, he would definitely be among the top geniuses. Yes. Sister, you've improved so quickly. Sister, with Wuliang here, you'll also improve quickly. All these years, you've been delayed because you were looking for us, and Wuliang, his martial arts are getting better and better. I'll give you some time to improve quickly. Ha! Let's do it together. No way. If Chen Hao and the others saw the three of them, they would be very surprised. Dad, Master Han Mei, and his mother, who had chased after him alone, were together. Not only was there no danger, but they seemed to be living quite comfortably. In particular, Chen Wuliang's improvement could only be described as astonishing. Chapter 1369. When the Sword King Chen Tai-su appeared, Chen Wuliang was slightly taken aback. Even though he only saw an image, the transmission of the immortal realm was a complete simulation of the aura. When Chen Wuliang saw Chen Tai-su, he couldn't help but tremble. What's wrong? Han Mei and Xue Mei asked. Don't you guys feel that this Sword King Chen Tai-su, not only is his name similar to mine, even his appearance and aura are similar? Indeed, they look similar, but he's much older than you. Of course, he's also much stronger. Moreover, he's a pure sword cultivator. You're not, yes, but look carefully. Your man isn't old yet. What's there to mold? It's all nonsense when it comes to your man. One day, your man, I, will also become an existence that looks down on the world. Yes, we believe in you. Ha ha ha, because you have a good son. He will definitely satisfy you. Fuck. Chen Wuliang looked at Han Mei and Xue Mei, who were in sync with each other, and spat out a mouthful of blood. How could this be? However, he couldn't help but admit that the son given to him by the heavens was indeed much stronger than him, but why did he feel that he was getting stronger and stronger? Somehow, he seemed to have awakened a new potential. Master! Master! Chi. Two figures flew up from Zhulu Academy's area and arrived in front of the Sword King Chen Tai-su, who didn't have any disciples accompanying him. Cough cough, suddenly seeing Miao Xian, Chen Hao had the urge to pounce on her even though they hadn't been apart for long. Fuck, how could the subconscious be so beastly? Fuck, the fusion of the subconscious actually has such a side effect. What if my subconscious defeats my clear reasoning in front of everyone? Chen Hao forcefully suppressed the desire in the depths of his heart and thought to himself with a headache. If that really happened, he could just find a piece of tofu and kill himself. He couldn't afford to lose face like that. That's her. So beautiful, so strong. Si Xian pinched Chen Hao. She wanted to say something, but when she stared at Miao Xian, the words that came out of her mouth became, so beautiful, so strong. Through Wan Yishui's big mouth, Si Xian already knew all the details of the Emperor Star's secret realm. Naturally, she knew that Miao Xian and Chen Hao had reached a point that she could only feel envy and jealousy, but could not do anything about. However, at this moment, when she saw this beautiful and powerful woman, she actually couldn't bring herself to push her aside. He even had a feeling that such a stunning woman should belong to Chen Hao. Sword King Chen Tai-su. What a terrifying aura. Ah, is that the Sword King's disciple? So strong, such a beautiful woman. It's a pity that the goodies are kept within the family. Countless people exclaimed in amazement, and they saw Miao Xian and Qin Yang as a couple. Ha! Sword King Chen Tai-su let out a hearty laugh as he suddenly stopped in mid-air and bowed slightly towards Star River King and King Ying. Junior Chen Tai-shu greets Xing He King and King Ying. Ha ha ha. Tai-shu, what junior are you talking about? No need to be overly courteous. Come and sit with me. Little brother Chen seems to have improved again. It seems that even I might not be a match for you. Voila, King Ying's words caused an uproar among the cultivators. However, countless cultivators also took it for granted. This was the current Chen Tai-shu, the new generation of Sword King. He indeed had the qualifications to be friends with Xing He King and King Ying. Not at all, not at all. Xing He King, King Ying, I'm going to Dehua Academy to talk to Qing Wanxiang about something. I'll come over later. Ah. Miao Xian frowned. What? Qing Wanxiang, who was in Dehua Academy's area, widened his eyes in surprise. Sword King is looking for Chen Wanxiang from Dehua Academy. The cultivators from the other academies were puzzled. Chi. Sword King Chen Taishu directly sent out 2 streams of energy to pull Qing Yang and Miao Xian to his side, and quickly headed towards Dehua Academy. Why didn't you listen to your master? If you come out now, your identities will be exposed. Master, there's no need to stay in Zhulu Academy. Moreover, after the competition, we'll be entering the Hongmeng domain. There's no need to hide anything. Oh. None of Zhulu's disciples are stronger than you? Chen Taishu was slightly surprised. On the surface, they're about the same. We'll know the specific situation during the ranking battle. Qing Yang said. Master, why are you going to Dehua Academy? What else can I do? Of course, I'm going to see my disciple's son-in-law. Ha! Master is impatient. Last time, when I found out that this kid had the 9 lives profound technique, I couldn't help it. What disciple's son-in-law? Master, don't talk nonsense. I haven't decided to be with him yet. Yes, Master knows. But you'll have to decide sooner or later, right? Ha! Fatty, be prepared. I have a feeling that he's coming for you. Chen Wanxiang suddenly transmitted his voice to Chen Hao. Ah! How can that be? I don't even know him. He's the high and mighty Sword King of the new generation. Chen Hao was surprised. I'm not familiar with him either. We don't have any friendship. Why is he looking for me? You know his disciples, Qing Yang and Miao Xian. Moreover, you've entered the immortal emperor tomb. So far, those who have come out must have come out with you, right? What do you mean? We're completely unrelated. It has nothing to do with me. Don't drag me into this. I still need to comprehend. Really? Lying isn't a good thing. Chen Wanxiang revealed a wolf-like smile. Fuck. Chen Hao frowned in disdain. If I'm not senile, it seems that the Sword King's disciple Miao Xian was still a young girl when she entered the Emperor's Star Secret Realm. Just like Yishui, the same. Now she's actually a proper woman. Moreover, why do I feel that the way you look at her is a little strange? Oh, good. You seem to have been immersed in comprehending the way of the sword recently. The aura that occasionally blossoms now seems to be sword intent. Yes, the way Qin Si looks at her is also not right. Fatty, before they arrive, tell me the truth. Otherwise, I won't care about anything. Fuck. This old man. This time, Chen Hao was really speechless. He was simply an old fox. When he was interrogated by him and the pavilion master, he didn't say much. How could he have guessed it? It shouldn't be. After all, Miao Xian still had a senior brother by her side. He was a big fatty. How could he have guessed it was him? Sister Shui. What did you say to that old man, the dean? About the situation in the Emperor's Star Secret Realm. Chen Hao suddenly thought of Wan Yishui and immediately understood the crux of the matter. We didn't say much, we just talked about our experiences in the Emperor's Star Secret Realm. Chapter 1370. Including Miao Xian. I think I said a little, but I just said it briefly. Don't worry, I won't say anything more. The all-purpose water made Chen Hao's balls hurt. Do whatever you want. I'm cultivating, please don't disturb me. Buzz. Chen Hao said directly to the dean. I actually waved the sword of wisdom, cut off all distracting thoughts, and directly entered the cultivation and enlightenment. Buzz. At this moment, the small cave where the Dahua College was located suddenly shook, and Chen Taishu stepped in with Miao Xian and Qing Yang. Greetings, Senior Chen. Chen Wanxiang hurriedly bowed and said respectfully, what can I do for you, Senior? Ha! There's no need to be so polite. These are the participating disciples of your Dahua College. Not bad. It's okay, I'm sorry. Why don't you pay your respects to the new Sword King, Senior Chen? Chen Wanxiang had figured out Chen Taishu's purpose of visit, but he didn't know if it was to denounce him or to claim kinship, which made him very nervous. However, at this moment, seeing that Chen Taishu didn't show any signs of denouncing him, he felt a little relieved and hurriedly scolded the disciples. "Greetings, Senior Sword King." Immediately, many disciples bowed and said respectfully with excitement. This was the new Sword King, one of the strongest people in the great world of CND. How could they not be excited at such a close contact? Moreover, Qing Yang and Miao Xian's appearance and aura made most of the disciples feel ashamed. Junior Murong Qianhua pays his respects to Senior Chen. Junior Tang Hu of the Dahua Tang family pays his respects to Senior Chen. Junior Xianyuan Chen pays his respects to Senior Chen. The arrogant Murong Qianhua bowed with excitement and admiration, and at the same time, he completely released his aura. Immediately, Tang Hu and Xianyuan Chen did the same. They didn't know what the Sword King was doing here, but they knew that this might be their opportunity. If the Sword King took a fancy to them, it would be a great opportunity. How could they not do their best to show off? Ha ha ha. However, Chen Taishu's gaze did not linger on them. He stroked his beard and smiled as he passed by. His gaze landed directly on the fat man who was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the crowd and seemed to have entered a state of cultivation. Qing Yang also smiled as he looked at the fatty, as well as Wan Yishui and Si Xian beside the fatty. On the other hand, Miao Xian's beautiful and otherworldly face had a faint blush. Her expression seemed to be very cold, but her eyes were secretly sizing up the fatty and Si Xian who were pretending to be dead. Not bad. Your disciples are not bad. Old man feels that perhaps you all have the qualifications to enter a top academy. Ah. Senior Chen, you flatter me. Chen Tai-su, who was still staring at Chen Hao and sizing him up, had just finished speaking when he suddenly cried out in surprise. Immediately after, an uncontrollable excitement surged up on his face. With a buzz, a part of his mind directly flowed out from between his brows. Chi! What surprised everyone even more was that it actually directly entered Chen Hao's forehead. Ah! You! Chen Si, don't be rude. Would Senior Chen harm a junior? You are this little fatty's Dao companion? Chen Taishu looked at Si Xian and asked. Yes. You. What did you do to him? Ha. I just chatted with him under the premise that I didn't disturb his cultivation. You are also very interesting, with the aura of tens of millions of years of life, Buzz. Chen Hao felt his mind shake, and a figure actually appeared in his sea of consciousness. Sword King. Little fatty, what's wrong? Are you afraid that old man will eat you? Old man wants to ask you something, I hope you won't hide it from me. Ask me something. Cough cough. That, you want to ask me how many Dao companions I have? I can be very clear. Why would I ask that? Old man will not participate in the love between you young people. As long as you are good to my disciple, there will be no problem. Otherwise, old man will chop you to death with his sword. Fuck. You call this not participating? Chen Hao was depressed when he heard this. Then senior, what do you want to ask? You have the aura of old man's unique skill. Chen Hao was speechless. Wasn't this bullshit? How could I not have the aura of your unique skill after obtaining your disciple's primordial yin body? Old man is not talking about the skill that Xian passed down to you. It is a type of concealment skill that blends with all things in the world, and it starts with carving. Where did you learn it from? Chen Hao's heart skipped a beat, and he almost jumped out of his cultivation state. Carving was his father's unique skill, and the requirements to cultivate it were very strict. One had to start from a young age, and it also depended on one's physique and luck. Therefore, even though it was passed down in the Wuji planet, only a small number of cultivators had learned a little. Only Chen Shui, Chen Nan, Chen Yan and the perverted Chen Hao were proficient in it. Chen Hao himself had no taboos, and there were very few skills that he could not learn. Chen Shui, Chen Nan, and Chen Yan were all from Chen Wuyang's bloodline, and they had started from a young age. Even Hu Mainyang and Bailey Ningbing, who also had Qin Wuliang's bloodline, could not master it. In other words, the Carving Heart Sutra was a unique skill that was similar to a bloodline inheritance. However, the Sword King Qin Taishu said that it was his unique skill. How could Qin Hao not be shocked? When he first met Qin Taishu, he felt that his father was similar to Qin Taishu, but now, my father taught it to me. Your father? Where is he? What's his name? Qin Taishu was even more excited now. I don't know where exactly, but I know that he is in the great world of CND. My father's name is Qin Wuliang. Senior, to tell you the truth, my father looks similar to you. Give me, your father's information, the more detailed the better. What do you want? Don't worry, I don't have any bad intentions. You are not your father's biological son, right? How do you know? If your bloodline is the same as mine, how can I not know? Qin Taishu did not hide anything. Are you serious? You and my father. We are brothers. He is my younger brother, my biological younger brother. He stepped into the endless cycle of reincarnation and was gone for 90 million years. I thought that he had truly died in the endless cycle of reincarnation, but I never thought that I would be able to obtain information about him from you. Qin Wuliang. Ha 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 ha. Had it been predestined from the start? Ha. If it wasn't for the Emperor's Star Mystic Realm, if it wasn't for you and Miao Xian, if it wasn't for the old man. I was afraid that you would humiliate my disciple. I wouldn't have known that my younger brother had returned to the immortal Emperor realm. Ha ha ha. Little fatty, are you still worried about me? Give me the information. It can't be so coincidental, the cycle of karma, what is coincidence? Alright. I'll give it to you. Senior. Chapter 1371. You're still calling me senior? Call me uncle. Ha. I, Qin Taishu, have spent my entire life on the path of the sword. I have no love, no desire, and no descendants. Miao Xian and Qin Yang are my only disciples. Now, I actually have a nephew. Ha. Ah. You have a nephew and niece. Ha ha ha. No way. You've taken care of all my nieces. Ahem. Uncle, maybe it's predestined. Karma, 'cause of the previous life, effect of the present life. Qin Hao said awkwardly. You really know how to apply what you've learned. Now, you've even taken care of my precious disciple. Could it be that we owed you in our previous life? Sword King Qin Taishu felt a headache coming on. This. Uncle, I'm also his son, your nephew, okay? That's true. It's much more balanced this way. Qin Taishu said as he read the light of memories that Qin Hao had passed to him. Unfortunately, I can't interfere with my brother's cultivation even if I find him. Otherwise, he'll blame me after he awakens. Was my father very powerful before? He's about as powerful as I am. Yes, I'm talking about the old me. Now, ha. Unless he awakens and advances further, then he'll be on par with me. Otherwise, he'll be inferior to me. However, I believe that once my brother awakens, he'll be able to advance further. After all, he has the body of a martial emperor. Moreover, the endless cycle of reincarnation was designed to be so cruel to himself. There's no reason for him not to be strong. Martial Emperor. The body of a Sword Emperor, Saber Emperor, Sword Emperor, and Saber Emperor are all pure physiques. However, the body of a martial emperor is broad and profound. It's all-encompassing. There's almost nothing that he can't learn. This is its strength, but also its weakness. It's broad but not proficient. Back then, my brother fell into this wrong path. That's why he chose the endless cycle of reincarnation. And he completely sealed his martial emperor's body and all his memories. I see, alright, don't tell anyone about this. I'll find him. I'll tell you then. However, you can't tell him about his past and my existence. Only he can awaken his past. And I can only exist in the dark. Yes, I understand. Thank you very much, uncle. Thank me. I'm his brother. It's not your turn to thank me. Ha. So be it. Don't expose our relationship in front of others, it's good for you. Don't be in such a hurry, uncle. I still have some things to tell you. As for how to deal with it, there's no hurry. But you must be mentally prepared. Oh. Chi. After Chen Hao confirmed that this uncle was real, he no longer hid anything. He directly told Sword King Chen Taishu about his father, himself, Yi Lan, the ancient chaos great thousand world, his current situation, and his worries. Even though they were communicating telepathically, it took Chen Taishu more than 10 seconds before he said solemnly, "For now, we can only endure. You can't reveal your identity. However, your 9 lives profound technique is really a headache. The identity of my disciple's son-in-law may be exposed when necessary. I believe he is not willing to fall out with me because of a disciple." Understood. Alright, that's settled then. Little fatty, I have high hopes for you. Good luck. Ha. Dean Cheng, farewell. Chi. In front of everyone, Sword King Chen Taishu had only talked with Fatty for about 2 minutes. He actually praised Fatty and left with Miao Xian and Qing Yang. Not to mention others, even Chen Wanxiang, Si Xian, and Wan Yishui who knew what was going on felt a little strange. Of course, many people were even more curious about what Sword King Chen Taishu and Fatty had talked about. They looked at Fatty with envy and jealousy. At this moment, many people recalled the matter of the Fatty and Wan Yishui entering the Emperor's Star secret realm. They also heard that the 2 disciples of the Sword King, Chen Taishu, had also entered the secret realm. Through the performance of Chen Taishu and his 2 disciples, everyone was certain that the Sword King, Chen Taishu, had made a special trip to see the Fatty. His last sentence of praise was clearly an affirmation of the Fatty. To be able to obtain the affirmation of the current Sword King, Fatty's talent must be really strong. His future prospects were definitely limitless. Damn Fatty, he's only in the Grand Luo realm. It's hard to say what's going on in Hongmeng. Don't worry too much. Besides, Sword King Chen Taishu probably only cares about sword geniuses. Otherwise, he wouldn't have left so quickly. That's true. But this damn Fatty seems to be able to suppress us every time. I feel that his luck is stronger than ours. It's just a little limelight. It doesn't matter. The real competition hasn't begun yet. Murong Qianhua, Xianyuan Chen, and Tang Hu stared at Chen Hao with gloomy eyes. They secretly communicated with each other unhappily. They were extremely depressed. They had no choice. Sword King Chen Taishu, Qing Yang, and Miao Xian didn't even look at them from beginning to end. And they still had the thick skin to spread their feathers like peacocks. It could be said that it was a very embarrassing thing. They thought they were very important, but they didn't expect that they were completely transparent in the eyes of others. After a quarter of an hour, all the important figures arrived. The restriction of the entire deer-chasing peak was completely activated. Shao Xinghe, the Star River King who represented the most powerful existence in the entire the great world of CND, slowly flew into the air and landed on the core arena of the huge martial arts practice field. The aura around him was like a spring breeze that swept through the entire martial arts practice field, making the cultivators in the small grotto heavens feel relaxed and happy. Opening speech. The moment the Star River King raised his hand slightly, the entire martial arts practice field suddenly became silent. Every cultivator in the grotto heavens looked at the god in their hearts attentively. At the same time, they adjusted their minds to the best state. Because everyone knew that the opening speech, which seemed to be a formalistic one, was actually a rare opportunity to listen to the Tao voice of the Star River King. This was the Tao voice of the most powerful person in the entire the great world of CND. How could they not take it seriously? Even Chen Hao withdrew from the state of cultivation. What the Star River King said was undoubtedly the same thing, without any novelty. But his peaceful and vast Tao voice, which seemed to contain thousands of laws, was clearly transmitted to the mind of everyone present. Now, Old Man announces that the new Academy ranking competition officially begins. As soon as the Star River King's voice fell, the entire martial arts practice field, with the rostrum as the origin, burst into cheers like mountains and seas. It was the same in the space of the immortal world. Immediately, the host of Deer Chasing Academy came to the stage and announced the first agenda of the competition, the unique skill performance. The full name of the Academy ranking competition was the Academy Ranking Competition. The exchange was first, and the ranking was second. Therefore, the unique skill performance was an essential event in every competition. It was also a very important event, especially for the selected academies and the disciples who were sent to perform. It was a rare opportunity to show themselves, win fame and fortune. Of course, the premise was that you could do it. Otherwise, you would only become a laughingstock. Chapter 1372. The 100 second-rate academies that have drawn lots, please step onto the stage according to your lot numbers. Number 1, please. Chi. As the host spoke, a figure suddenly flashed out from the grotto heaven of a second-rate academy. Crash. Hu Fei. Hu Fei. Loud cheers immediately followed. A rather young female disciple in purple soft armor quickly landed in the center of the arena. Through the magnification of the runes on the arena, the cultivators in the grotto heaven could clearly see the appearance of the female disciple in the arena. At the same time, they could also clearly sense the aura that she was releasing. Blue Tai Academy's disciple, Daluo Golden Wonderland, Hu Fei. Please advise me. In the face of the top senior expert of the cultivation world, all the young elites in the world, and almost all the people in the cultivation world in the immortal world, it was very difficult for anyone to remain calm. At this moment, it could be said that she was the focus of the world. Although the young girl tried her best to suppress her emotions, she could not really calm down. The aura around her body could not be controlled and slightly trembled slightly. After bowing to the rostrum, she took a deep breath. Suddenly, two bright lights bloomed from her eyes, like lotus flowers spiraling in her eyes. In an instant, mysterious runes like lotus flowers were born from her dancing hands. Lotus flowers were everywhere. As the young girl danced, talisman markings revolved and fluttered around her body. They were either attacking or defending, and they formed numerous strange and profound formations. Even though it was just a performance and there was no opponent to set it off, the profundity and might contained within it caused many people to be shocked. An emotional illusion hides endless killing intent. Not bad. TSK. A second-rate academy actually has such an outstanding female disciple. Her appearance, figure, and aptitude are all very good. It seems that I should consider going to a second-rate academy to be a chicken head. Many disciples of first-rate academies were excited, not to mention the disciples of second-rate and third-rate academies. After Hu Fei's performance, it was her turn to perform a disciple of the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. She was also a young girl, and her beauty and aptitude were excellent. After that, one by one, second-rate academies sent out outstanding disciples to practice. It had to be said that the number of female disciples on the stage was far greater than the number of male disciples. Even if there were male disciples on the stage, they were all high, strong, and handsome. Applause and cheers could be heard from time to time. Occasionally, there would be a very intense situation. At that time, a truly powerful disciple would appear. Unfortunately, the performance of a second-rate academy's disciple was nothing in the eyes of a first-rate academy's top geniuses and top academy's disciples. It was the same for the abnormal Chen Hao. Even if it was a second-rate academy's Grand Mist Supremacy realm's performance, it wouldn't be much stronger. However, Chen Hao watched without blinking. His mind was immersed in the performance, pondering over the essence of each person's ultimate skill, constantly verifying it in his mind. To him, it didn't matter if the opponent was strong or weak. What he wanted was the strong points of the opponent's absolute art. Fatty, is this performance really that good? At this moment, Si Xian looked at Chen Hao, who was watching with great interest, and couldn't help but ask. It's beautiful, very beautiful. I feel like you're looking at a beauty, right? Yeah, I think so too. Wani Shui chimed in. Shit, you guys are underestimating Big Brother's eyesight too much, right? Although these disciples are much worse than us, each of their absolute arts has its own characteristics. You guys watch carefully and verify what you've learned. Occasionally, you'll be able to find a place that shines. You'll be able to integrate some changes into what you've learned. It'll bring about an effect that you can't imagine. Chen Hao said. The two of them didn't expect Chen Hao to say such a thing. They both blushed with shame in their hearts. After saying, oh, they also began to watch with rapt attention. What was a genius? Talent and hard work. Chen Hao was already so abnormal, but he still grasped every opportunity to work hard. Jinxing Academy's disciple, Daluo Golden Wonderland's Zhang Cheng. When the second-rate Academy's performance came to an end, the cultivator on stage made Chen Hao and Si Xian slightly stunned. Jinxing Academy, your beautiful elder sister's academy. Hee, it's been a few hundred years in the blink of an eye. Chen Hao smiled slightly. He also thought of the female cultivator, Fan Ling, and Zhou Yuchen, whom he'd met twice when he'd first stepped into the great world of CND. After that chance encounter, there hadn't been any news of them. After Jinxing Academy's performance, it was time for the first-rate academies to perform. In the list of performing academies, the first-rate academy is Dahua Academy. It's a pity that Big Brother hasn't returned yet. Otherwise, Big Brother would have a great chance to perform on stage. In the Baihui Academy's Grotto Heaven in the first-rate academy area, after the first-rate academy's performance began, a little regretfully said. No, Chen Nan said directly. Why? Big Brother didn't appear in his original form. His image is bad. According to what sister-in-law Si Xian told us, it's more likely that he's in his 8th life. Oh, that's true. I wonder if it's possible for big sister Si Xian. If we're talking about appearance, none of those who went on stage before were as charming as big sister Si Xian. I don't know. The aura in the immortal world space isn't her aura in the outside world. Chen Nan said. As long as she's strong enough, the possibility is still very high, we'll know soon enough. Dahua Academy was number 3 of the first-rate academies. It didn't take long for them to arrive. They're so strong. The first-rate academies have really gone up a level. Yeah, I thought that the second-rate academies this year would be very impressive, almost catching up with the first-rate academies. I didn't expect the first-rate academies to be so different. Yes, they've all become stronger. The great era has arrived, and it's indeed incomparable to the previous years. That's true. However, I feel that the academies that will be drawn will definitely be the ones that have improved the most in the past 1,000 years. After all, this is equivalent to a battle of luck. Only those with good luck will be drawn. That's right. As soon as the first-rate academies' performances began, everyone saw the gap between them. They were at the same level, but their auras were much stronger. In fact, they didn't even need to make a move to see who was stronger and who was weaker. It's our turn. Xue Fian, go. When the second Academy's Grand Mist Supremacy Realm finished their performance, Cheng Wanxiang's voice sounded a little excited and expectant. He was excited because he was more confident in Xue Fian and Si Xian after watching the performances of the other 2 academies. Sister Yan, you can do it. Ha! Ao Guang cheered loudly. Fian, show your beauty. I have high hopes for you. Go. You can do it. Chen Hao encouraged as well. I will. Xue Fian's expression was as cold as ever. Don't be too surprised. Don't be too surprised. Ao Guang and Ling Feng were both surprised. After all, they knew Xue Fian very well. How could they be too surprised? They had even seen her noble and elegant true form once. Chapter 1373. Buzz. Buzz buzz buzz. Xue Fian did not give the crowd much time to wonder. As soon as she finished speaking, her body began to glow with resplendent light. A mysterious and dense qi began to spread. Her extremely ordinary appearance disappeared and was replaced by the cold beauty that had bloomed once before. The Ice Queen. She had a graceful figure and a beautiful face that matched her title. However, are you serious? Almost instantly, the entire grotto heaven of the University of Dahua exploded with cries of surprise. Everyone's eyeballs fell to the ground and their mouths were agape. Even Chen Hao was stunned by Xue Fian's appearance. Only the dean, Chen Wanxiang, the pavilion masters, and the teachers were not surprised. They looked as if they already knew what was going on. The crowd was not surprised by Xue Fian's appearance, but by the aura that she was emitting. It was the aura of an original Yin body. Xue Fian was emitting the aura of an original Yin body. How could the crowd not be surprised? Most of them knew that Xue Fian was a woman whose seat had been taken. Some of the more perverted people even thought of the dean when he had asked her to perform. But now, Xue Fian was actually a virgin. This left many people in a state of disarray. Can this be faked? However, is this a fake Yuan Yin body, or is the original non-Yuan Yin body just a disguise? Chen Hao thought of the Great Restoration technique on Earth. Men on Earth would not be able to tell if this was the first time. However, this would not work in the cultivation world. This was because it was not a matter of a membrane. If that was the case, any cultivator would be able to repair it. The most important thing was the original Yin body. Only a woman who had her Yin and Yang body intertwined for the first time would have her original Yin body. This was something that could not be faked and had nothing to do with one's cultivation. Fuck. Sister Yen has an original Yin body. Ha ha ha. Fuck. How is this possible? What is going on? Buzz. While the crowd was still in shock, the cool and sexy Xue Fian turned into a ray of light and flew towards the core arena. The Ice Queen. Xue Fian. It was only at this moment that the students of the University of Taoism woke up from their stupor. Suddenly, they erupted into loud cheers. Especially the men, they seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. They were inexplicably excited. As Xue Fian stepped out of the grotto heaven of the University of Taoism, numerous gazes gathered on her from all directions. Her beautiful face and curvaceous figure instantly caught the attention of countless people. Xue Fian, on the other hand, emitted an ice-cold aura. Stepping on the crowd's cheers, she slowly descended onto the arena. Under the effect of the runes on the stage, Xue Fian's appearance and aura became clearer and clearer. She was wearing a snow-white soft armor, had a graceful figure, and a beautiful face. Her long hair fluttered in the wind, and her cold and powerful aura made her look like an ice goddess. She shocked everyone as soon as she appeared. Even Chen Hao, Ling Feng, and Ao Guang, who were familiar with Xue Fian, were no exception. I am Xue Fian, a disciple of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland of the University of Dahua. When Xue Fian bowed to the rostrum, the entire arena suddenly erupted into the loudest, most terrifying, and craziest cheers. Before she even started her performance, she had already conquered countless cultivators with her beauty, temperament, and powerful aura. This was especially true for the young cultivators. Even some of the top geniuses from the top academies were tempted. Their eyes lit up as they remembered this name immediately. Qi. 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 Runes shot out from Xue Fian's hands in an instant. Her lithe and exquisite figure moved around the arena. Combined with her ancient martial arts, it was like moving clouds and flowing water. She played with tens of thousands of laws between her fists and palms. Powerful energy waves and majestic, ice-cold pressure incited crazy cheers again and again. This made everyone certain that the Daohua Academy, which was only a first-rate academy, had produced a genius girl who could be ranked among the top academies. At the same time, Xue Fian's appearance also surprised Chen Xue, Chen Nan, and the others in the top academy, Parkway Academy. Qi. After Xue Fian finished her performance, Si Xian, the performer from the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm, flew out from the grotto heaven of the University of Dahua. Chen Shui, Helian Wuzi, the other girls, and Chen Nan shouted excitedly. This was the first time they saw Si Xian and felt her aura after entering the great thousand worlds of the immortal emperors. Moreover, she was stronger than they expected. In the past 300 years, Si Xian's strength had increased tremendously. Even though she couldn't compete with the top experts of the top academies in the Grand Mist realm, she was still very strong. Coupled with her stunning appearance and the dense aura of her undying bloodline, the commotion she caused was even more exaggerated than Xue Fian. What shocked everyone even more was that even the Celestial River King and Prince Ying, who were sitting on the rostrum, both revealed looks of surprise at the same time. They did not even try to hide their perception as they probed towards Si Xian. Qi. 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 If you want it, I won't fight with you. However, Ying, her undying bloodline aura isn't very outstanding, and her life aura is at least 60 million years old. Why did you decide so quickly, and why are you worried that I will fight with you? She looks like me. Prince Ying stared at Si Xian, who was performing, and smiled. The aura of her 9 lives profound technique is also very weak. Why are you so surprised? Hee hee. As expected, I can't hide anything from you. Her 9 lives profound technique doesn't originate from my inheritance. To be able to reach such a realm can be said to be heaven-defying. It can be seen that her perception is extremely high. What's even more valuable is that she should have bitterly cultivated all the way until now. Otherwise, with her age, she definitely wouldn't be at such a realm. Qi. 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 After Si Xian bowed, she immediately attacked. In an instant, runes tumbled and Dao laws surged. Qi. 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 Yes, the life aura is the same, so it must be teacher Si Xian, right? Chen Wuyang and Han Mei, who were watching the live broadcast of the Academy ranking tournament in a certain alliance square in the immortal world, were shocked when they saw Si Xian's figure appear. Chapter 1374. Si Xian was once a legend in the vast universe galaxy. Even Chen Hao and Han Mei had to address her as teacher Si Xian. Si Xian and Chen Hao were not exaggerating about this. How did she come to the Celestial Emperor realm? Her aura is very strong. She's definitely one of the best in the Grand Mist Supremacy realm. Also, the aura of the immortal bloodline. Most importantly, she's also trained in the 9 lives mystic technique. Wuyang, sister. Tianxi should be with her. Huh? How do you know? Before I came to the Celestial Emperor realm, they were already in contact. They even went to the ancient Chaos realm together, ahem. Xue Mei, are you saying that Tianxi has already taken care of her? This is very likely. After all, before I came here, Si Xian's 3rd life had already fallen in love with Tianxi. According to what Senior Yilan said, it's very likely that something has happened between her original body and Tianxi. Damn. As expected of my son, he's so awesome. Ha ha ha. What, did you fulfill your unfulfilled wish? Ahem. Han Mei, don't talk nonsense. Chen Wuyang's face turned red. The 3 of them did not know that there was something wrong with the spirit realm helmets that they used to appear in the great world of Xiandi. They did not know that the ancient chaos realm existed in the Celestial Emperor realm space. So beautiful. The University of Dehua has 2 such outstanding female disciples. That's amazing. That's right, that's right. Big brother likes Qinxi so much. A woman who has kept her chastity for tens of millions of years is so pure. Ha ha ha. I still prefer the cold and elegant Xue Fian. That cold and aloof temperament of a goddess. If I can conquer her, it'll be great. TCH. Stop dreaming. Didn't you hear what Xing He and King Ying said? It's impossible for Qinxi. Even Xue Fian has no hope unless she's one of the top geniuses in the top academies. Yes, yes. Let's be realistic. We're not qualified to have such a beauty. After Xi Xian's performance, all the spectators in the arena and even in the immortal realm were shocked by the performance of the University of Dahua. They were all talking about Xi Xian and Xue Fian. It had to be said that they were the 2 most attractive women since the beginning of the exhibition match. Dean Chen Wanxiang was extremely satisfied. He was very proud of the fact that he hadn't sent out his strongest, but instead sent out the 2 most attractive girls to perform. At this time, in the cave where the University of Taoism was located, countless gazes once again gathered on Xue Fian, who was no longer disguised. Ao Guang and Ling Feng were even more unscrupulous as they circled around Xue Fian and sized her up. They only stopped when Xue Fian's face turned red and she flipped out. Chen Hao was honest this time. After showing a certain amount of surprise, he immersed himself in the next academy without a care in the world. It couldn't be helped. This brother was really scared, whether he was lecherous or not, righteous or shameless, handsome or fat, women seemed to have little resistance to him. If Xue Fian was a woman who had been occupied, he could still joke around with her, but now he had to maintain a certain degree of restraint. Wan Yishui didn't feel anything about Chen Hao's attitude, but Xi Xian was different. However, she couldn't do anything about it. Moreover, she couldn't be angry at Chen Hao. On the contrary, she felt a little sympathy for Chen Hao. Then, the remaining 7 first-rate academies continued to perform and caused 4 climaxes. Among them, 2 female disciples from the Daluo Golden Wonderland and 1 female disciple from the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm performed as well as Xi Xian and Xue Fian. In fact, they were even stronger. However, this wasn't the most shocking thing. A male disciple from the Daluo Golden Wonderland caused the biggest sensation in the show. Kong Ying. One was only the Daluo Jingxian, but the absolute art realm he displayed, the comprehension of the heavenly Tao, and the cultivation of his mental state had far exceeded the limits of his own realm, reaching the Tao-severing true immortal realm. He could only be described as unfathomable. When Chen Hao sensed Kong Ying's aura, he felt that it was a little familiar. Especially the aura of runes contained in the laws of the sacred art he used, it made Chen Hao feel as if he had encountered it before. After a while, Chen Hao thought of the Tao marks in the Emperor's Star secret realm and the aura of the Azure Cloud staircase. However, Chen Hao was sure that he and Wan Yishui didn't meet an expert like Kong Ying in the Emperor's Star secret realm. However, Qing Yang, who had returned to the Zhulu Academy, was very clear about this. Kong Ying, the spirit of all things in the Emperor's Star secret realm, had traveled with Qing Yang in the Star River Tunnel for a period of time. They had only separated when they stepped into the great world of Xiandi. Kong Ying, who had joined a first-rate academy, had shocked countless disciples of the top academies, not to mention the first-rate, second-rate, and other academies. And these were only the few academies that were lucky enough to have the right to perform. How many experts were hidden in the majority of the academies that didn't have the chance to perform? Everyone couldn't help but be shocked. Now, let's welcome the last academy, the top-rate Snowdrift Academy, to perform. Voila! The moment the host finished speaking, the crowd erupted into cheers. Not only the disciples of the Snowdrift Academy, but also countless disciples of the other academies joined in. The name of the Snowdrift Academy instantly resounded throughout the heavens and earth. This was the only top-rate academy in the exhibition competition. Compared to the other academies, this was the most anticipated performance, not to mention that it was the Snowdrift Academy's performance. The Snowdrift Academy was ranked in the top 10 among the top-rate academies. It was one of the top-rate academies in the great world of CND. The disciples of the Snowdrift Academy were famous all over the world. Those who had joined various powerful forces could be found in every main planet and city in the great world of CND. Their influence was so great that even the majority of the top-rate academies couldn't compete with them, let alone the first-rate academies. Little Fatty, watch carefully. The disciples that the Snowdrift Academy will send out to perform may not be their strongest disciples, but they are still among the top. They can basically represent the highest level of the Academy ranking competition this time. Whether or not you have a chance to reach the top of the top 1,000 will depend on whether or not you are stronger than the performers. This is something only you can judge. Carefully sense it. Chen Wanxiang suddenly transmitted his voice to Chen Hao. It couldn't be helped. Even though Chen Wanxiang was a true immortal king expert, he had to admit that he couldn't completely see through Fatty, who had endless trump cards. Fatty's true strength was something that only Chen Wanxiang knew. However, according to his estimation, it would be very difficult for Fatty to enter the top 1,000. After all, there were countless monsters in the top 100 academies, including the first academy, Zhulu Academy. Even on average, Chen Hao would have to qualify as one of the top 10 academies in order to have the chance to enter the top 1,000. Chapter 1375. Okay. Chen Hao took a deep breath, and his gaze became fierce. Battle intent surged while his essence, energy, and spirit surged, and he seemed to be extremely confident. Chen Wanxiang nodded slightly and looked forward to Chen Hao's performance. In fact, even without Chen Wanxiang's explanation, Chen Hao already knew how powerful the Snowdrift Academy was, especially since it was one of the top 10 academies. Of course, he had to observe and sense carefully because he didn't want to stop at Chen Wanxiang's so-called top 1,000 ranking. Top 10. He wanted to reach the top 10 with pure sword Dao. What kind of concept was that? If Chen Wanxiang knew what Chen Hao was thinking, he would be so shocked that his jaw would hit the ground. Top 10. For a first-rate academy that wasn't even a top-notch academy, that was something they didn't even dare to imagine. It was something that only happened once every 10 million years, so how could Fatty have done it? Even if Fatty was favored by the Sword King's disciple, it was only the beginning. He needed time to become stronger, didn't he? Of course, no matter how confident Chen Hao was in himself, he wasn't confident that he could reach the top 10 with his sword Dao. After all, he didn't know much about the great 1,000 world of the immortal emperors. Moreover, a great era was coming. Who would dare to think that they were invincible in the same realm? Just like Kong Ying, who had just appeared. Chen Hao couldn't tell who was stronger and who was weaker. He would only know after a real battle. Kong Ying was just a disciple of a first-rate academy. Hiss. A tall and slender figure stepped on the cheers and screams of the crowd and floated out of the grotto heaven of the Snowflake Academy. He didn't have a powerful aura, nor did he contain any Dao law, but this young disciple of the Daoyuo Golden Wonderland made the expressions of countless Daoyuo Golden Wonderland geniuses turn serious. It was just like when Kong Ying appeared. Everyone felt a chill from the bottom of their hearts. This was the momentum of a true expert. It was invisible and formless, and it directly shook the soul of a cultivator. I am Linghu Feishua, a disciple of Snowdrift Academy's Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. Please advise me. A faint voice rang out. The instant Linghu Feishua bowed slightly, his figure suddenly disappeared. Immediately after, the incomparably vast space within the arena turned into a world of ice and snow. Snowflakes the size of goose feathers danced in the air. Just like his name, flying snow connecting the heavens. Rumble, icebergs rose from the ground one after another, blooming with icy blue crystal light. Beautiful, magnificent and magnificent. However, just as everyone's mind was still immersed in the beauty of the world of ice and snow, there was a loud rumbling sound. Everyone felt their vision turn black, and the entire world of ice and snow completely collapsed. There was still no powerful or terrifying aura. Linghu Feishua's figure gradually appeared in the white light. As if nothing had happened, he elegantly cupped his fists and floated away. It was only at this moment that the screams of countless women and the shouts of men erupted like a tsunami. Some of the more powerful disciples of the Daluo Golden Wonderland felt a chill in their hearts. A domain world formed with a wave of his hand and turned into ashes with a snap of his fingers. There seemed to be no powerful energy, but it was precisely the reason why everyone was aghast. It was because the other party had absolute control over the domain world. It was not rare for a cultivator to be able to create a domain world among the experts of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. However, it was rare for a cultivator to be able to evolve a domain world into the embryonic form of a great world. After all, the Daluo Golden Wonderland had yet to form a great world in the mind. It was even more incredible to be able to completely control the energy fluctuations within the domain world without the slightest leakage. Linghu Feishue is not simple. Not only is he not simple, but he can definitely be described as terrifying. Yes, he can casually display a domain world that surpasses the limits of his own realm. It's really too shocking. Yes, he's definitely not worse than Kong Ying. It's rare for a monster like Kong Ying to appear in a first-rate academy in thousands of years. I thought he would be able to take the top spot in the ultimate performance, but I didn't expect him to still be unable to surpass a first-rate academy. Not necessarily. At their level, unless it's a real duel, it's very difficult to judge who's stronger and who's weaker. Well, no matter what, the Snowdrift Academy is really powerful. Linghu Feishue is definitely not the strongest one among them, but he's already so strong. No wonder he's one of the top 10 academies. The cultivators in every cave and in the immortal realm were all buzzing with discussion for a long time. It was not until the host with a powerful aura appeared above the arena that the discussion gradually subsided. The 100 disciples of the golden immortal realm of the great all-embracing heaven from all the academies who were participating in the group competition became excited and agitated. The Daluo Golden Wonderland group ranking competition is about to begin. All participating disciples, please get ready. Chi! 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 As the host spoke, countless runes containing the extremely powerful law of time and space suddenly burst out from the hands of the extremely powerful cultivators and gathered at the center of the arena. Dazzling immortal light and endless Tao laws swept across the 9 heavens and 10 earths like a hurricane. The void within a radius of hundreds of millions of miles set off terrifying turbulence. What a terrifying power! At this moment, all the cultivators present were moved. Even the true immortal kings were no exception, let alone the participating disciples. Is this the power of 10,000 true immortal kings with different Daos? 10,000 Daos, 10,000 Daos. So strong, so strong. How strong is this condensed space? Chen Hao's eyes were filled with shock as he stared at the void. The group competition was still held in the arena. However, although the arena was originally vast, it was not enough for the participating disciples of countless academies at the same time. At this moment, 10,000 true immortal kings with different Daos were activating their strongest energy to condense the competition space at the same time. It was different. This was the fusion space of 10,000 Daos. Moreover, it was condensed according to certain rules, the space of 10,000 Daos. Top forces, top academies, first-rate academies, second-rate academies, third-rate academies, fourth-rate academies, and some great forces that could compete with academies all entered from all directions at the same time. The team that could reach the center of the space first would be the first, and so on. It was that simple. After stepping into the space, there were no rules to speak of. The only clear agreement was not to kill indiscriminately. It was no different from not having any agreement. Indiscriminate killing, what was indiscriminate killing? It was something that was very difficult to define. Any little conflict could be interpreted as not indiscriminate killing. How could one be convicted? In fact, no one had ever been punished for this rule. Whether to kill or not, how much to kill or not, all depended on the strength and mood of the team. Inside, killing and intercepting between teams was everywhere. Killing and robbing were not a problem. This was undoubtedly the most dangerous thing in the process of passing through the stage. Unless your team chose to avoid it, it would mean that you were behind. Chapter 1376. 10,000 Daos, 10,000 barriers, 100 people comprehend, 1 person breaks through, 100 people advance. Phew. Even the top geniuses from the top academies were getting excited and nervous. Chen Hao, who had the appearance of a fatty, was very calm. What really excited him were the individual and team competitions. When Chen Hao understood the details of the team competition, he already knew that it was almost tailor-made for him to show off. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for any cultivator to comprehend the barriers of 10,000 people and 10,000 Daos. Although the Daos contained in each barrier were the most basic, cultivators were limited by their own bloodline, physique, perception, and other objective factors. It was impossible for them to comprehend every Daos. However, Chen Hao was born with the general outline of Daos. Other than the Daos of fate and deduction that he could not comprehend, there was nothing that he could not comprehend. If he were to be compared to a character in a game, he would be a complete Daos. Under such circumstances, coupled with his superb perception, how could his progress be slow? Fatty, don't let your guard down. In every competition, many monstrous geniuses can comprehend 1,000 Daos first. The highest number of them is over 3,800. Cheng Wanxiang reminded him, perhaps because he noticed Fatty's relaxed expression. That powerful? Chen Hao was slightly shocked. Of course. Although your perception is very strong, you still have to treat it seriously. Everything else aside, you have to at least maintain the 433rd position. For 33, other than the top 100 academies, there were 333. That was the current ranking of the top academies. I will do my best. As long as you fulfill the rewards that you promised. Don't worry, I'm a dignified dean. Why would I lie to you? That's good. One more question. Dean, how big is this space of 10,000 Daos that they condense? Under the laws of time and space, using the speed of Yi Shui's teleportation technique as a reference, without any barriers, it will take about a year to reach the core. That big? What's the record for the fastest time to reach the core? 12 years. Putting aside the time that was slower than flying in the Yi River, he would spend about 10 years comprehending. With 1,000 Dao laws a year, he would have to comprehend 3 types of Dao laws every day. Why do you ask? Cheng Wanxiang was a little puzzled. Nothing much, just a reference, Chen Hao said, but in his heart, he was a little annoyed. He was well aware of the threat of the second life. It was Chen Hao's habit to never underestimate his opponents. How could he not consider the methods that his second anima might employ? If Second Life could think of something, then it was impossible for him to not think of it. Second Life was a disciple of Zhulu Academy. Moreover, he was the direct disciple of the honorary dean, Star River King. If he wanted to play dirty, then Chen Hao would not be able to escape. He would have to prepare in advance. I hope the distribution won't be too far apart, Chen Hao thought to himself. He knew very well what he would face next. How could he not understand himself? A few minutes later, the core battle arena seemed to have turned into a sphere that was condensed from Dao laws, releasing a myriad of brilliant lights. Begin. It was also at this moment that the grotto heavens of all the academies shone in all directions. One after another, 100-man teams were wrapped in a mysterious immortal light. They seemed to be circling around the huge sphere on the core battle arena without any rules. At this moment, Chen Hao, who was also wrapped in the light, released his mind's perception completely. Unfortunately, the immortal light that bound them was like a grotto heaven. He still could not sense the aura of the other cultivators in the immortal light. Enter. Chi chi chi. Buzz buzz buzz. A moment later, a loud shout was heard. Chen Hao and the others felt the immortal light shake. A huge distortion appeared in the space-time law. Immediately, their bodies became light, and the 100-man team appeared in the myriad Dao space. Phew, The first level. Brother Fatty, you're the fastest. Bring us to the barrier at full speed. Ao Guang said excitedly. In Ao Guang's opinion, this was the first time he had worked together with Qin Hao in the great world of CND. The immortal world space did not count. However, what Ao Guang did not know was that the person who had been with them in the divine realm space was only Qin Ritian. Fatty, you're the fastest. Monkey, how am I supposed to endure this? All of you, hide your aura and follow me. Chi chi chi. As Ling Feng spoke, he released a wave of energy that directly wrapped the 100-man team. Immediately after, he took a step forward. Chi chi. Ah. So fast. Fuck. Ling Feng, when did you become so fast? Ao Guang and the others were shocked. Ha ha ha. Ling Feng laughed proudly. During the test, I was the fastest. Today, 300 years later, I'm naturally stronger. In more than 300 years, Ling Feng's powerful Pegasus soaring technique had a breakthrough during his seclusion before the Academy ranking competition. This was originally an ultimate technique that was not inferior to the Great Teleportation Technique. In fact, it was more agile. However, just as Ling Feng was feeling extremely proud of himself, Fatty, who had a smile on his face, suddenly shook his head and said, "Don't waste time. Although your ultimate technique is fast, it's suitable for battle. Compared to the Great Teleportation Technique, which is specially used for escaping, it's still inferior." Buzz. As Qin Hao spoke, his fat body suddenly expanded rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he had become a 10,000-foot-tall giant. Chi chi chi. At the same time, runes appeared from his fingertips and he placed Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and the others on his shoulders. Before Ling Feng could say anything, the space trembled. With Ling Feng's speed as the foundation, he suddenly advanced. As if he had pierced through the void, he traveled 100 million miles in an instant. Ling Feng, who wanted to say something, was dumbfounded. How could he be so fast? This had completely surpassed the limits of one's realm. Although the Great Teleportation Technique was powerful, in the Daluo Golden Wonderland, no matter how strong one's comprehension of it was, it shouldn't be so much faster than his Pegasus soaring technique, right? Ao Guang, Xue Fian, and the others were all shocked at this moment. No one had expected Fatty's speed to reach such a frightening level. The only one who was calm was Wani Shui, who was clear about the situation. In the Emperor's Star's secret realm, in the long span of 1,000,000 years, even her strength had soared to such a terrifying level, let alone this abnormal Fatty. Wani Shui was sure that this was just the beginning of everyone's shock. Fatty would definitely become one of the most dazzling existences in this year's Academy ranking competition. She was incomparably certain of this. Don't be idle. Although the aura now isn't as dense as at the barrier, we can still comprehend it. Qin Hao said. Everyone was slightly surprised. At this moment, Fatty's expression had become abnormally solemn. This was something that had never happened before. Chapter 1377. It must be known that just a moment ago, Fatty's expression had been extremely relaxed. All along, he had given them the impression that he was a frivolous, mischievous, and heartless existence. But now, he clearly had the advantage of being much faster than the other teams. Why was he so serious? However, when Fatty became serious, everyone felt a sense of reverence from the depths of their hearts. Even Ling Feng, who had never accepted Fatty as their boss, nodded obediently at this moment. He sat cross-legged on Fatty's huge shoulders and began to comprehend. Xue Fian frowned as she looked at Fatty for a while. Then, she took a deep breath and began to comprehend as well. Ao Guang and the others naturally didn't need to be mentioned. Only Wani Shui, who had fused with Qin Hao's spirit flesh, was slightly worried. By now, she was basically clear about Fatty's situation. Although she didn't know exactly what was going on, she knew that it had something to do with Qin Hao's great lives. That was indeed the case. After entering the space of myriad Daos, Qin Hao had completely released his essence aura. When he replaced Ling Feng and started to teleport, he sensed the auras of the other lives in the same space. What worried him was that the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth lives were all in the opposite direction. In other words, they were the furthest away from him. As for the second life, although he still couldn't capture it, Chen Hao was certain that he was in the vicinity of the other lives, and would definitely choose to attack them one by one. Chen Hao didn't even need to use his but to think to know that the second life had used his identity to do something. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so coincidental. Fuse them one by one. Dream on. Wang. Chen Hao said coldly in his heart. At the same time, he urged his essence to control the other lives. He couldn't control the second anima, but as for the other animus, if they were in the same space, he could control them. Let's gather. Qi. Qi qi qi. Following Chen Hao's order, the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth lives were in a bad mood, but they couldn't resist the order from their essences. They could only leave their respective teams and, under the shocked gazes of their teammates, left like lightning. Trace. Qi. On the other side, as Chen Hao and the other great fates gathered together, a resplendent immortal light spilled out from the forehead of Chen Tianhe. An ancient and powerful aura filled the air as an antique mirror engraved with complicated magical symbols floated in front of him. Instantly, several figures appeared in the mirror. They were Chen Hao's other fated fates. As expected. Do you think you can stop me just by gathering together? On the contrary, it saved me the trouble of chasing him everywhere. As for this sovereign, he, indeed couldn't capture it. Chen Tianhe furrowed his eyebrows. Although this was within his expectations, when this situation truly occurred, he was still worried about the mysterious situation within his true self's mind. He was currently using the immortal artifact mirror that he had borrowed from his senior brother. With just a little bit of the origin aura, he could trace all the individuals that possessed the origin aura. However, it was actually ineffective against him. It doesn't matter. All I have to do is absorb these 4 lives, and I'll definitely beat him. Qi. Chen Tianhe, who had already made arrangements, informed the team that he was leading and left in a flash. Although he was the commander of Zhulu Academy, all he wanted was a title. With the talent of the top 100 disciples of Zhulu Academy, entering the top 3 was not a problem. Only Star River King's Xiao family and Queen Ying's Jade Maiden Palace might be stronger than Zhulu Academy. However, even if a family or sect were to win first place, it would not affect the Academy's ranking. They were only here to prove their strength and win luck. This was one of the reasons. Secondly, compared to his own fate, how could Zhulu Academy's ranking be qualified? He had to solve his own problem first. I hope you're strong enough. Chen Hao thought to himself as he sensed the origin aura coming from afar. Although his speed was fast, it was impossible for him to reach the other end of the myriad Dao space in time. Even the shortest distance in diameter, without the obstruction of the myriad Dao space, would take more than half a year. By that time, it would be too late, not to mention that there was a myriad Dao space in the way of the myriad Dao space. The other path was to go around the circumference of the myriad Dao space, which was 14 times the diameter. It would take more than a year. Therefore, the only hope now was for the 4 great fates to join together before the second fate defeated them one by one. With the combined strength of the 4, they should be able to defeat the second fate. Unfortunately, in the end, Chen Hao had miscalculated under the machinations of second anima. The aura of the 4 great fates joined together after a month. However, just as Chen Hao breathed a sigh of relief, the origin aura of the 4 great fates fluctuated violently. After 2 hours, it completely disappeared. Chen Hao could no longer sense the slightest trace of it. This caused Chen Hao's expression to become even more solemn. The aura around his body uncontrollably blossomed with a thick killing intent. If not for Wang Yishui's reminder, none of the members of their team would have been able to calm their hearts and comprehend it. The only fortunate thing was that with Xue Fian, Ling Feng, El Guang, and Wang Yishui in the lead, the speed at which they comprehended the myriad Dao space was relatively fast. In a month's time, the 100 of them had actually comprehended the myriad Tao space without wasting much time on the road. This speed wasn't the least bit inferior to the top academies, let alone the top academies. Break. The 63rd layer. I'm actually the first to comprehend it. Ha ha ha. A cultivator had only used 4 hours to comprehend the Tao space contained within the 63rd layer barrier. He laughed excitedly. At the same time, he didn't waste any time and directly sent out energy to envelop Chen Hao and the others. Then, he stepped through the myriad Tao space. This was the specialty of innate talent. Sometimes, having a strong perception didn't necessarily mean that you would be the first to comprehend it. It also depended on whether or not it was your cup of tea. If it wasn't your cup of tea, then no matter how strong your perception was, it would still be difficult to comprehend it. At this time, Chen Hao let out a long sigh of relief. His furrowed brows relaxed. Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian, whose moods had been affected by Fatty, finally heaved a sigh of relief. Brother Fatty, do you have something on your mind? Ao Guang mustered up his courage and asked. At this moment, Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and the others had already discovered that Fatty had actually already conquered all of them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have felt uneasy just because of Fatty's expression and aura. Nothing. Let's go. We have to use our fastest speed to rush to the core. Come, let's compete and see who can comprehend more. All right. Ha. Brother Fatty, I've already comprehended 11 levels. You haven't even comprehended one. Ling Feng said. Although he called himself brother, the way he addressed Fatty had inadvertently changed. Hee, that's because Brother Fatty didn't use his full strength just now. However, we're about 10 levels ahead. Brother Fatty, it won't be easy for you to win against us. Ha! Is that so? Then I'll let you guys witness Brother Fatty's true power. Chapter 1378. Wang. Activating the great teleportation technique, Chen Hao's eyes shone brightly. Although he was smiling and did not look as serious as before, Chen Hao was no longer the Fatty of the past. The current him made Ao Guang, Ling Feng, Xue Fian, and the rest feel as though he was an unsheathed treasured sword, displaying a brilliance that the Fatty had never displayed before. 64. Fuck. Brother Fatty, it has only been an hour. Oh my god. Brother Fatty, you are too fast. Could it be that you have comprehended a Tao law by chance? You can say that. Stop talking nonsense, continue. 65. 66. Fuck, 15 minutes. Brother Fatty, are you going to let us live? I have comprehended it by chance. Sorry, continue. Under the space-time law, 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. Under the leadership of the perverted Fatty, the Zoya Academy was unstoppable. Along the way, as they converged towards the core, they did not encounter a single team. Taking the lead, they broke through to the 5,611th floor. Such a perverted advancement speed made Ao Guang and the others prostrate themselves in admiration. Most of them were comprehended by Chen Hao first. Level 5612. Brother Fatty is too perverted. Based on this trend, does it mean that we are almost guaranteed to get first place? Nonsense, if we keep going at this speed, we will definitely get first place. You have to know that the record has only been maintained for 12 years. We have only used 5 years to reach more than 5,000 levels. 1 year to reach more than 1,000 levels. We will be able to complete it in less than 10 years. Yes, what kind of monster is Brother Fatty? It seems that there is no Tao law that he cannot comprehend. Ha, we don't need to comprehend it. We can just watch. I am afraid that Brother Fatty has already broken the record for the number of levels he has comprehended. Ha ha ha, that won't do. Comprehension is also cultivation. This is the myriad Tao space. Such a cultivation opportunity is hard to come by. Even if you can't comprehend it before Brother Fatty, it is still good to comprehend it. I wonder how long Brother Fatty can use this level. I guess 15 minutes. At most. I'm guessing half an hour. Look, this is the first time Brother Fatty is frowning. Hearing that person's words, everyone was astonished. In the past few years, the fatty had been able to easily break through his bottleneck. Yet, at this moment, he was actually frowning. What a faintly discernible aura. Could it be the Tao law of deduction? Deduction. It should be the deduction technique. Soon, everyone confirmed that the mysterious aura contained within this layer was related to the deduction technique, and this was where Qinhao's flaw lay. Deduction. Are you sure? Brother Fatty, I'm sure. I've seen divination experts cast spells many times. Although the aura is different, it definitely contains the aura of divination. Someone in the crowd said. Phew. If that's the case, then I'll have to rely on you guys. The fatty exhaled and said. What's wrong, fat bro? This is my inborn regret. I can't comprehend anything that involves deduction. Fatty explained. Ahem, me too, fatty bro, damn, it can't be so coincidental, right? Me too. Me too. Me too, Ao Guang, Ling Feng, Shui Fian, and Wani Shui also frowned. The four of them and Qinhao were the ones with the strongest comprehension ability among the 100 people. If the 5 of them could not comprehend it, then the delay on this layer would definitely be very long. This was not what Qinhao wanted to see, but there was nothing he could do about it. The deduction technique definitely required a special talent to comprehend. Ordinary people could only comprehend the surface at best. Similarly, Qinhao was not as optimistic as the others. Although he had broken through more than 500 layers in 5 years and was very likely to break the previous records, Qinhao felt that they would not be the only ones who could break the record in this competition. After all, the real great era had arrived. As the legend said, the Emperor's star would appear and the immortal emperor would appear. Among the disciples participating in this competition, there might be powerful spirits of all things hidden, and it would not be as simple as just 1 or 2. Spirits of all things, reincarnations of immortal emperors, how could their comprehension of this kind of Tao law be poor? Immortal emperors could even integrate 3,000 great Taos into their bodies. At this moment, although they were spirits of all things, what they needed to comprehend was only 10,000 Tao laws. It was not difficult at all. Everyone, do your best to comprehend it. Yes, Brother Fatty. The team from Dahua University stopped for the first time. In the outside world, ha ha ha. Old Cheng, you guys have stopped. Did you see that? We're about to catch up. Ha ha ha. So what if we catch up? Do you think Dahua University is afraid of you? Ha. Our competition is held once every 10 years. You guys have completely fallen behind in the past few hundred years. Isn't it just a fatty who came back? Don't tell me you expect him to change the situation. Old Cheng, if I were you, I would pray that your disciples do not clash with us. Otherwise, if something happens, don't blame our university. Is that so? Li Wuxiang, I realize that you are very despicable. What are you talking about? Didn't we just win a little more than you guys? Our Dahua Academy has treated you like brothers and sisters, and we have interacted with each other for the sake of communication. But all these years, you've only sought victory. You've crushed us and won that insignificant amount of luck. Do you really think that Tang Long is stronger than us? If I'm not wrong, did you say that if you meet Dahua University, you should kill them without mercy? How is that possible? Qing Wanxiang, don't talk nonsense. However, if your people block our path, it's not something I can control. After all, the closer we are to the core, the narrower the path becomes. Unless we are in the lead, we will meet sooner or later. Oh, by the way, let me tell you something. Shi Chao is the spirit of all things, ha. Cheng Wanxiang's face turned ugly as he stared coldly at Li Wuxiang, who used to be his brother and was now the dean of Tanglong University. Shi Chao was the genius of the Daluo Golden Wonderland who crushed Xue Fian, Ling Feng, and Ao Guang in the competition between Dahua University and Tanglong University 300 years ago, which was the year Chen Hao entered the Emperor's Star's secret realm. Unlike the dispute between Li Wuxiang and Chen Wanxiang, countless people were shocked by the performance of Dahua University and Tanglong University. No one had expected that the two academies ranked in the top 300 of the first-class academies would be able to surpass so many top-class academies. Their speed of advancement was even faster than Star River King's Shao family's disciples, Zhulu Academy, Jade Maiden Palace, Snowdrift Academy, and more than a dozen other top-class academies, including Kong Ying's first-class academy. Only now did Dahua University seem to be blocked by a barrier. It could be said that Tanglong Academy, which was the closest to Dahua Academy, was rapidly approaching. Chapter 1379. Such a situation made everyone understand that this year's ranking competition would break all the previous records. The arrival of the real world had exceeded everyone's expectations. Now, before the final stage, several people had broken the record for the number of levels comprehended. The first name on the list was Li Yuan. The second was Qin Tianhe. The third was Kong Ying. The fourth was He Jie. The fifth was Shi Chao. The number of barriers comprehended by each person was more than the sum of the other people in the team. Especially Li Yuan, who was at the top of the list, comprehended as many as 4,235 levels. Only less than 1,400 levels were comprehended by others. Therefore, not to mention Fatty, even the cultivators who were in the top 100 were labeled as the wisest of all creations at this time. However, the most shocking one was not the number one Fatty, but Zhulu Academy's Qin Tianhe. The reason was simple. There was no one in Daya Academy who could comprehend faster than the Fatty. Therefore, he was the first to comprehend. How many heaven-defying monsters were there in Zhulu Academy? However, in such an environment, Qin Tianhe's number of Dao laws was only second to Fatty, who was at the top. In particular, the top teams from Snowdrift Academy, Shao Family, and Jade Maiden Palace did not have anyone in the top 10. They were all monsters who shared the number of levels of comprehension. Dali Academy, Li Yuan, first, at this moment, in the Celestial Realm, Chen Wuyang, Han Mei, and Xue Mei stared at the individual comprehension ranking on the screen and murmured excitedly. It must be Tianxi. It had to be. This was Tianxi's name on earth. Furthermore, only my son could be so perverted. Ha ha ha. It must be, I have a feeling. Xue Mei said excitedly. There was no video display in the test, only the teams represented by the light spots and the top 10,000 on the individual comprehension ranking. It was the same in the field. What's wrong? Look below. Ah. Helian Wuzi, Long Ting, Qin Shui, Hu Mainyang. Parkway Academy. The three of them saw a name that made them excited again. However, when they saw that it was Parkway Academy, they were slightly puzzled. Without a doubt, these were the girls who didn't hide their real names. But why weren't they in Huahua University? Xiao Shui. They are actually so strong. In the great world of CND, they are already in the top academy. Moreover, their comprehension speed is very fast. But why isn't she with Hao? Strange. They should have come to the great world of CND together. Could it be that something changed after I left? The three of them discussed excitedly, but they were unable to guess what was going on. He could only wait until he got in touch with them. Under the powerful spacetime laws, the outside world seemed to be moving at a very fast speed, but the time in the myriad Tao's space was very slow. 10 days, Chen Hao frowned slightly as he stared at the long and narrow passageway. He had already given up on comprehending and was just sitting cross-legged at the back of the group, protecting them. There was nothing he could do about it. He was unable to comprehend even the slightest bit of the Tao laws related to the art of deduction. This floor is probably a huge hurdle for any team, right? I hope it won't take too long. Chen Hao didn't like the feeling of relying on others, but there was nothing he could do. Chen Hao's eyes suddenly lit up. Someone actually caught up with us so quickly. In the myriad Tao's space, there were many passageways intertwined with rings. As the distance to the core got closer and closer, the passageways would continue to merge and decrease. Meeting was almost inevitable, unless you were fast enough, so fast that you left everyone in the dust. There's actually someone in front of us. While Chen Hao was surprised, the leader of the team, who was moving forward quickly, also frowned slightly. Ah. Brother Shi Chao, you sensed it? Yes. How is this possible? Our speed is so astonishing, and there's actually someone in front of us. Yes, we're going to break the record. Brother Shi Chao, did you sense wrongly? Shi Chao smiled slightly, shook his head, and said, I've said before, it's not easy to be first. Let's go, since we've caught up, no matter who it is, we'll surpass them. Prepare for battle, the opponent should be a team from a top academy. Ah. Brother Shi Chao, if it's a top academy. Can we do it? With me here, you can rest assured. Perhaps you won't even need to do anything. Shi Chao said with a smile, as if he was at ease. Even if they were about to face a powerful top academy, he was not afraid at all. Buzz. Chen Hao glanced at the others, who were trying their best to comprehend, and stood up directly. The battle intent around him surged violently in an instant. Chen Hao could feel an extremely powerful aura, which was not inferior to his in the slightest. He also knew that the other party had sensed him. However, since the other party did not turn around to look for a passage on the side, and instead came directly toward them, it meant that the other party wanted to snatch it. You've come at the right time. Chen Hao, who was unable to comprehend, said excitedly. He was bored, and although he knew that the other party was very strong, it still made him excited. Brother Fatty, what's wrong? Although Chen Hao had already controlled his battle intent, it was still detected by Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian, who were also unable to comprehend and deduce the rules of Tao. Someone's coming. Chen Hao said in a deep voice. Ao Guang and the other two were slightly surprised. Immediately, the three of them released their perception, and a look of surprise appeared on their faces at the same time. Fuck. Motherfucker, it's actually him. Tanglong Academy. What Chen Hao did not expect was that Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian actually recognized the other party's aura. Tanglong Academy, our brother academy. You guys went to participate in the exchange competition? Chen Hao asked. That's right. Brother Fatty, after you went to the Emperor Star's secret realm, the exchange competition became an exhibition match for that guy from the Tanglong Academy. The three of us, and Chen Ritian. Chen Hao frowned slightly. He had merged with Chen Ritian, but he did not merge with Chen Ritian's memories for the time being, in order to prevent it from affecting his state of mind at this crucial moment. At this moment, Chen Ritian's memories were still sealed in his mind. Otherwise, he would have been able to recognize the other party's aura. He's called Shi Chao, the chief disciple of the Tanglong Academy. Ling Feng said. Brother Fatty, his comprehension of absolute arts and the rules of Tao has completely surpassed the limits of his realm. Although we've improved quite a bit in the past 300 years, we don't have any confidence in facing him. Ao Guang said with a depressed expression. This was the truth. Ao Guang felt that the current him was still not a match for Shi Chao from 300 years ago. Not to mention, Shi Chao's aura was even more powerful after 300 years. Although Ling Feng and Xue Fian did not want to admit it, they felt the same as Ao Guang. Chapter 1380. I think it's because of Shi Chao that they can be so fast. The dean said that Shi Chao might be the reincarnation of the Celestial Emperor. Now, I'm almost sure. So strong. His aura is really strong. Chen Hao's battle intent surged even more fiercely. Fatty, you want to fight? Xue Fian asked. Xue Fian, who had returned to her original appearance, was not as emotionless as before. She was also more talkative than before. Should I hide? That's not my style. Okay, let's fight. Damn it, if we can't win, we can just run. Anyway, with my speed and Brother Fatty's speed, we can escape. Ling Feng said. This caused Chen Hao to be slightly surprised. For the prideful Ling Feng to say such words, it was enough to prove that Shi Chao was strong to the point where Ling Feng felt that he was no match for him from the bottom of his heart. Otherwise, Ling Feng would definitely not say such words. Boom. Boom. Xue Fian did not say anything. Like Ao Guang and Ling Feng, her battle intent surged. At this time, Wan Yishui, who was not in the state of enlightenment, quietly came to Fatty's side. Her fine black hair fluttered in the wind, and she was ready to fight. After returning, Wan Yishui could not get used to her relationship with Chen Hao. Especially in front of Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and the other old friends of Fatty, she could not let go. It's them. When Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian stood up and released their auras, Shi Chao instantly recognized their auras. Brother Shi Chao, who is it? De Hua Academy. Ah. De Hua Academy. They. How could they be in front of us? That's the truth. It should be related to someone I haven't seen before, but I feel a little familiar. De Hua Academy, haha, since it's not a top academy, it's even easier. Let's speed up. 10 minutes passed quickly. Chi. 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 Shi Chao led a team of 100 people and arrived at lightning speed. Ha ha ha. It's really De Hua Academy. Tisk tsk, Xue Fian, your disguise was so ugly, and you even lost your primordial yin body. Now, you're perfect. What's more, your original body is so cold and sexy. Ha ha ha, that's right. She's barely qualified to be Brother Shi Chao's Dao companion. Oi, oi, losers. Although we are from the same school, a competition is a competition. Are you going to give up your seats, or do you want us to do it? As soon as they arrived, the disciples of Tanglong Academy all had mocking expressions on their faces. They didn't put Dahua Academy in their eyes at all. Shi Chao stood with his hands clasped behind his back and a faint smile on his face. His gaze fell on the fatty's face, but he didn't say anything. Only his narrowed eyes grew sharper as he met Chen Hao's gaze. This fatty is very strong. Shi Chao sensed a dangerous aura from the fatty, who was also smiling but had a rising battle intent. This was his keen intuition that surpassed his own realm. Boom. Boom. It was also at this moment that the disciples of Tanglong Academy released their auras in a frenzy, directly suppressing the people of Dahua Academy who were sitting cross-legged. Has anyone succeeded? Boom. Boom. The disciples of the University of Taoism woke up one by one. At first, they thought that someone had comprehended it first, but when they woke up, they realized that something was amiss. Shi Chao. Tanglong Academy. Instantly, many people cried out in alarm. The disciples present were all the top disciples of Dahua Academy's Daoyuo Golden Wonderland. How could they not know how terrifying Shi Chao was in this competition that was held once every 10 years? And from the other party's aura, it was obvious that he wanted to take over the territory, interrupting the comprehension of our Dahua Academy's disciples. This reason is enough for me to kill all of you. The fatty suddenly spoke. An incomparably sharp aura, a terrifying pressure, directly pressed down on everyone from Shi Chao Academy. The disciples who were mocking him immediately shut their mouths. Their faces changed as they looked at the fatty in shock. Soon after, they looked at their commander, Shi Chao. Hee hee. Shi Chao smiled faintly and said indifferently, I am Shi Chao. May I ask how do I address this brother? Are you the commander? Li Yuan. Commander. Are you sure you want to snatch this place? What, you don't want to give way? But it doesn't matter. Taking care of your Dahua Academy won't take long. Your aura is very strong. It seems to be on par with mine. But, did they not tell you where I am strong? In front of me, your aura is strong. It is useless. If you know what's good for you, leave on your own. We will meet again in the future. After all, we are brothers. What do you say? Shi Chao's smiling expression did not change. But because of the fatty's aura, his eyes suddenly became cold. At the same time, a terrifying pressure exploded out from his body and enveloped Chen Hao and the rest. The words that he said also became arrogant and overbearing. What a good brother academy. I will give you the same words. A wise man submits to circumstances. 1. Scram immediately. 2. Fight with me. The loser, scram. The fatty was originally slightly excited and his fighting spirit was rising. However, after hearing his words, he became abnormally calm. An ice-cold murderous intent was quietly born and spread out, causing his domineering voice to be filled with an unquestionable tone. This caused everyone to believe that the fatty was not an alarmist. What a strong killing intent. Since you are not convinced, I will fight with you. However, fists and legs have no eyes. You are responsible for your own life and death. That's exactly what I want. Brother Fatty. Ao Guang, Ling Feng and Xue Fian were extremely nervous. However, the fatty waved his hand and stopped them. Boom. Boom boom. At the same time, Chen Hao and Shi Chao exploded. Their essence, qi, and spirit soared to the sky. A terrifying aura was released. Everyone, back off. Shi Chao and Chen Hao ordered their people at the same time. In fact, there was no need for them to say anything. Many people could not withstand the aura that they released and had already retreated. Brother Fatty, be careful. Fatty, just do your best. At most, we will give in to them. Xue Fian said. You don't have to worry about him. Wan Yishui was the calmest at this moment. This was because he knew how abnormal Chen Hao was. Although Shi Chao was strong, the fatty was definitely not weaker than Shi Chao. She was sure of this. Ha! We meet. I'm sorry, old Cheng. I'm afraid your great transformation realm will have to go to another passage. Ha, but it won't take long. At most, it will take 1 or 2 months. After all, you are still in the first camp. That might not be the case. It's not like you haven't seen how strong Shi Chao is. Why are you so stubborn? Don't worry, I definitely did not say anything about killing without mercy. However, since we meet, it's inevitable that there will be casualties. Don't blame me. I'll return the same words to you. Just wait and see, Li Wuxiang. You will cry. You are really a stone in the latrine pit. Smelly and stubborn. Who will cry? Chapter 1381. Chen Wanxiang and Li Wuxiang couldn't see what was going on inside the myriad Dao space, but they could see that the dots representing the 2 academies had overlapped. They knew what was going to happen next. Whichever dot of light left would mean that the academies had lost. Li Wuxiang didn't doubt Shi Chao's ability at all. As the leader of the Daluo Golden Wonderland, Shi Chao already had the strength to fight with the leader of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm, Ding Ling. What kind of concept was that? Ding Ling was Li Wuxiang's personal disciple. He was so strong that he could be ranked among the top academies. Shi Chao of the Daluo Golden Wonderland could actually fight with Ding Ling of the Grand Mist Supremacy Realm. This wasn't a simple challenge. Boom! Shi Chao's hands formed seals with lightning speed. Suddenly, he clapped his hands, and a huge rune appeared out of thin air. It covered the sky and covered the sun like a huge black hole, and directly swallowed Chen Hao. He displayed an extremely terrifying strength as soon as he made his move. Chen Hao's eyes shone brightly. His black hair danced in the wind as a strong will of slaughter bloomed. He also took out his treasured sword, sending out a continuous stream of sword light. The great 5 elements art, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, evolved into the supreme laws of heaven and earth. When the sword bloomed, it could suppress the 9 heavens and slay immortals and gods. In that instant, a sword cry like a dragon's roar rang out, piercing through the endless starry river and connecting the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Bang! Chen Hao took a step forward, causing the earth to tremble. His essence, energy, and soul boiled. Qi! 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 It was the same 5 elements art, but after returning from the Emperor's Star Mystic Realm, Chen Hao had unleashed an attack that completely surpassed the level he had unleashed when he battled the 8th anima Qinritian. It was a supreme mystery, and the 5 elements circulated, increasing his power by countless times. Within his sword intent, it was as if he had unleashed the concept of Xianhuang. The black hole collapsed, and Chen Hao's fat figure walked out from the darkness towards the dawn. He stepped out from the dazzling sword light and stood with his sword in hand. Every inch of his skin was blooming with boundless blood energy, and a terrifying aura flowed around him. Qi! Chen Hao did not stop at all. He swung his sword again and merged with heaven and earth. Borrowing the power of heaven and earth, he condensed a huge sword light. Shi Chao remained calm and unruffled as he pointed out with his finger. A black hole suddenly appeared and swallowed the huge sword light before disappearing. It was as if Chen Hao's sword light had been drawn into the chaotic space without causing the slightest ripple. Chen Hao was taken aback. No wonder Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian were so worried about him. This person was indeed unfathomable, and he was definitely a mortal enemy. It was impossible to predict who would be the stronger one. Flower fall. Shi Chao shouted. Then, crystal-clear petals fell from the sky like a rain of petals. Every petal contained mysterious runes and surged with the power of Tao. Shi Chao stood in the air at the source of the flower rain. His long hair fluttered in the wind, making him look like an immortal. Chen Hao, on the other hand, felt as if a knife was cutting through his bones. He felt an immense pressure, and his body and soul felt as if they were about to collapse. Pressure that completely surpasses the realm. How could it be so powerful? Chen Hao was shocked. Human destruction. Shi Chao waved his hand. The petals formed into flowers, which then turned into a waterfall made of thousands of petals, which poured down from the sky. Rumble. Endless Tao laws fell. The majestic energy and terrifying pressure destroyed everything in its way. Qi. 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 Chen Hao's sword light flowed and an extremely sharp sword essence gushed out. His wrist shook thousands of times in an instant, and the heaven and earth turned into dazzling sword light. Every petal was a sword light. At the same time, the aura that Chen Hao exuded had completely surpassed the limits of his realm. He was on par with Shi Chao and was not at a disadvantage. You do have some skills, but it's not enough. Shi Chao was slightly surprised. Then, he suddenly strengthened his attack. In an instant, the endless flowers scattered and turned into crystal-clear petals. Every petal seemed to have turned into an extremely sharp sword light that slashed toward Chen Hao. Qi. 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 Air-rending sounds were heard. In an instant, the sky was filled with dancing petals. Endless mysterious Tao laws bloomed from the petals. It was extremely terrifying. It was many times more terrifying than before, and it displayed an even more terrifying Tao law battle technique. The indescribable pressure and the aura that could destroy heaven and earth and wipe out all life seemed as if doomsday had arrived. Chen Hao frowned slightly and looked solemn. He suddenly moved his hand that was holding the sword and evolved the Taiji sword technique with the immortal sword principle. The Taiji diagram of yin and yang was instantly born from the sword light. He stepped on the core of the Taiji diagram and his sword formed a sphere. Boom! 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 Immediately, a terrifying collision broke out and the entire space shook violently. The petals dissipated and the Taiji diagram shattered. They were evenly matched. You can even block this? Shi Chao's eyes flickered and revealed a trace of shock. However, he soon calmed down and took the initiative to attack Chen Hao again. He displayed another terrifying unique skill that was beyond the limits of his realm. Chen Hao was shocked. Although he was mentally prepared, he still felt a huge pressure. However, under this pressure, Chen Hao, who was belligerent in his bones, was more excited than excited. Sword. Chen Hao continued to use his sword Dao to break through the attacks, not holding back at all. Various sword Dao laws and profundities constantly bloomed from the sword light, confirming Chen Hao's comprehension during this period of time and gradually fusing into the solitary sword art. Qi. Endless killing intent burst forth. Under Shi Chao's increasingly terrifying attacks, Chen Hao finally merged the great teleportation technique and the solitary sword technique together for the first time in a battle. His entire body turned into a sword light and his killing moves were endless. While Shi Chao was shocked, he also displayed all his trump cards. Shocking unique skills that had never been seen or heard of emerged one after another. The shocking battle between the two forced the crowd to retreat further and further. They were all frightened and shocked. Even Xue Fian, Ling Feng, Ao Guang, and the others did not expect Chen Hao and Shi Chao to have reached such a terrifying level. It was not something they could compete with now. Although their realms were the same, their strength had exceeded the limits of their realms. Chen Hao crazily gathered his strength. Endless sword principle profound meanings were changing in his hands. It was unpredictable and he was using it more and more smoothly. The more he fought, the braver he became. Shi Chao felt a trace of pressure and became more and more crazy. In next to no time, the battle between the two of them had reached its climax. Chen Hao let out a long howl as various dazzling and profound sword lights appeared, blotting out the sky and covering the earth as they charged towards Shi Chao with the intention of taking him down. Celestial Slaying Technique. It was also at this moment that Shi Chao let out a loud roar. His strength instantly increased by countless times, becoming incomparably shocking. He actually met the endless sword light head-on. With the momentum of close combat, he forcefully broke through the layers of sword light and charged towards Chen Hao. Chen Hao's pupils shrank and bloomed with excitement. Close combat was Chen Hao's favorite way of fighting. It was also the most dangerous and the most tempering way. Chapter 1382. What? But in an instant, Chen Hao was shocked. The immortal exterminating art contained boundless energy and profound laws. It was definitely not something that Chen Hao could comprehend right now. Once they collided, Chen Hao would definitely be injured. This was without a doubt, but this was not what shocked Chen Hao. What shocked Chen Hao was that Shi Chao did not defend at all. He only attacked, as if he was risking his life. In almost an instant, Chen Hao concluded that Shi Chao's immortal exterminating art was not as simple as it seemed. Otherwise, how could he risk his life before it was a matter of life and death? At the very least, Chen Hao did not think that his opponent had used up all his trump cards. Unfortunately, in this instant, even if Chen Hao felt that something was wrong, he could not change anything. He could only face it head-on. This fatty is actually so strong. He actually forced brother Shi Chao to the point of risking his life. How is this possible? This fatty is not simple. He is definitely the reincarnated spirit of all living things. Otherwise, it is impossible for him to force brother Shi Chao to this extent. However, brother Shi Chao definitely has a backup plan. Otherwise, he would not be risking his life right now. The Tanglong Academy's disciples stared at the two people fighting in the distance and were overwhelmed with shock. Chi chi chi. Boom boom boom. A terrifying explosion erupted between Chen Hao and Shi Chao. Chen Hao's plump figure was sent flying back while spurting out blood. However, he did not panic. At the same time, he brandished his sword, condensing runic sword light to block Shi Chao's attack. Shi Chao's attack was terrifying, mysterious, and relentless like a shadow. Boom boom boom, that scene was like a series of bombs exploding between Chen Hao and Shi Chao. It was extremely shocking. The participating disciples of Dahua Academy, Ao Guang, Ling Feng, Xue Fian, and even Wani Shui, who was very confident in Chen Hao's strength, held their breaths nervously. They were sweating profusely for Qin Hao. Strong. Ruthless. Today's Shi Chao was many times stronger than 300 years ago. Ao Guang and the other two were sure that 300 years ago, they and Chen Ritian were unable to force Shi Chao to use his true strength. Otherwise, Shi Chao's advancement would be too terrifying. Ah! What? Suddenly, the Tanglong Academy's disciples began to cry out in fear. The students from the University of Cathay widened their eyes in disbelief. It could be said that other than Qin Hao, no one would have thought that Shi Chao, who had completely given up on defense, would actually be annihilated by Qin Hao's incomparably fierce sword light when he launched his most ferocious attack. Shi Chao's body was directly torn into pieces, but he also took the opportunity to imprint the strongest rune of the celestial slaying art on Qin Hao's body. Qin Hao's body and soul were severely shaken. Even the powerful immortal golden body could not withstand it. In an instant, his 5 viscera were shattered, his tendons and meridians were all broken. Blood spurted out from all over his body, turning him into a bloody man. However, this was only a physical injury. The attack on his soul was beyond Qin Hao's imagination. It had to be said that the celestial slaying art was much more terrifying than Qin Hao had imagined. Fortunately, Shi Chao's own realm limited his absolute power. Otherwise, Qin Hao would not be so simple as being severely injured. Ruthless. Boom. Qin Hao snorted coldly. Enduring the double damage to his body and soul, he frantically gathered his energy again when his opponent's body was clearly destroyed. Impossible, impossible, how could Brother Shi Chao lose to him? Brother Shi Chao has the strength to fight against Ding Ling, the reincarnation of the spirit of all things. How could it be so simple? Brother Fatty is so strong. He won. Brother Fatty actually defeated Shi Chao. Ha! Ah! When both sides thought that the outcome had been decided, they were both frightened and happy. Suddenly, they were all stunned. Great Nirvana art. Shi Chao's cold voice suddenly sounded, as if it came from the depths of hell. Ga. Boom. The cry of a phoenix pierced through the sky and resounded through heaven and earth. In the void, endless flames appeared out of nowhere and burned fiercely. The destroyed Shi Chao was reborn in the blazing flames. Great Nirvana art. One of the most powerful ultimate arts of the 3000 Great Tao. It was countless times more powerful than the Undying Bloodline because the Undying Bloodline needed time to recover. However, the Great Nirvana art could be reborn in an instant, directly to the peak state. What kind of concept was this in battle? Any cultivator who could cultivate the Great Nirvana art was definitely an extremely abnormal existence. This was a heaven-defying Great Tao. Fortunately, it could not be used continuously for a certain period of time. Otherwise, no one in the same realm would be a match for him. At this time, everyone finally understood why Qin Hao did not care about his injuries and gathered his energy after Shi Chao was destroyed. Obviously, Qin Hao had already predicted that Shi Chao would not die so easily. You didn't die. Shi Chao, who was full of energy and spirit again and had successfully undergone nirvana, looked at Qin Hao in shock and his pupils shrank. This time, after discovering the fatty's terrifying strength, Shi Chao knew that if he wanted to take him down, he could only use his strongest strength without holding back. The combination of the immortal vanquishing art and the great nirvana art was undoubtedly his strongest killing move. With his comprehension that surpassed his realm, not to mention the geniuses of the Daluo Golden Wonderland, even the geniuses of the Grand Mist Supremacy realm would be killed by Shi Chao. However, although the fatty in front of him was severely injured, his life was not in danger. What shocked Shi Chao even more was that the fatty seemed to know that he had the great nirvana art as a backup and had forcibly gathered his energy in advance. Chi. The fatty, whose eyes were cold, did not say anything and did not give Shi Chao any time to breathe. The energy that he had gathered in advance was violently blasted out from the treasure sword. Endless destructive and murderous intents were contained within, forming a terrifying sword light that seemed to want to swallow the world. Sword devouring the world. Shi Chao was shocked. He did not expect Chen Hao's soul and physical body to be so strong. Even when his immortal vanquishing art's Dao mark was severely injured, his sword principle unique art could still be so terrifying. Boom! Boom boom boom. Even though Shi Chao was in his peak state, he could only hastily defend himself against the terrifying attack that the fatty was prepared for. This time, he was caught off guard by the severely injured fatty's attack. He vomited blood and was sent flying. He was instantly severely injured. Murderous, indestructible, destructive, the three sword principles were merged together. Almost in an instant, Shi Chao felt the aura of sword principle contained in the fatty's Dao mark. What shocked him was that as the spirit of all things and as a fully awakened being, he could not erase the fatty's Dao mark from his body in a short period of time, let alone comprehend it. Moreover, the most important point was that the fatty's three-sword Daos were not as high as the heavenly Dao law that he had comprehended. This meant that the fatty had fused and condensed a type of heavenly Dao law that was so powerful that even the heavenly Dao law that was a certain level higher than him couldn't forcefully break it. Chapter 1383. Qi. 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 Shi Chao did not dare to hesitate any longer. He urged his mind to resist Chen Hao's Dao marks while healing his injuries and gathering his strength. At this moment, Chen Hao, who had severely injured Shi Chao, finally stopped. He did not dare to delay any longer and began reciting the primary outline of the Great Tao in his mind. At the same time, he activated his undying bloodline to quickly heal his injuries. Under the effect of the primary outline of the Great Tao, Chen Hao's healing speed suddenly increased by several times. His undying bloodline boiled and flowed several times faster. It was as if every meridian and bone in his body was humming. His internal organs were vibrating and there was a majestic vitality spreading from every cell in Chen Hao's body. It healed Chen Hao's injuries at an astonishing speed. What a pure undying bloodline! What a majestic blood qi! At this moment, the cultivators who were staring at Chen Hao all exclaimed. Shi Chao's heart skipped a beat. He did not expect Chen Hao's recovery speed to be so shocking. It was definitely twice as fast as his. This was a race against time. Whoever recovered faster would undoubtedly obtain the final victory. But now, Shi Chao, who cultivated the great nirvana art, was not as fast as Fatty. One had to know that even if he could not use the great nirvana art again, because of the great nirvana art's profound meaning, his recovery speed could only be described as shocking. Seal. Shi Chao suddenly let out a loud shout, and the sword Dao law imprinted on his body immediately disappeared. He could not break it for the time being, but with the powerful sealing ability, he blocked the destructive power of Chen Hao's Dao marks on his body and soul. Rumble. It was also at this moment that Shi Chao's bloodline aura exploded from within his body with a loud boom. The sound was so loud that it was deafening. Crackle. His severed meridians and bones were all crackling as they were quickly reconnected and repaired. With this, his recovery speed increased by an unknown number of times. Even Chen Hao was inferior to him. In the same realm, no one can beat me, Shi Chao. So what if you have the undying bloodline and three-sword Daos? His comprehension is far inferior to mine. Ever since Shi Chao made his debut, especially after he fully awakened, no matter what kind of opponent he encountered, he had never tasted defeat. Although today was undoubtedly the strongest opponent he had encountered, he believed that the final victory would still be his. What a powerful seal! It can actually completely block my Dao marks. As expected of the spirit of all living beings, divine ability laws are endless. Chen Hao's heart trembled. At this moment, he was certain that Shi Chao's recovery speed was much faster than his. However, Chen Hao did not have the slightest intention of admitting defeat. His opponent wanted to kill him. At this point, how could admitting defeat be of any use? What's more, Chen Hao, the god of slaughter, who was prideful to the bone, did not have the word surrender in his dictionary. Moreover, until now, he had only displayed the limits of his swordsmanship. Phew, Chen Hao closed his eyes and calmed himself down completely. In a life and death situation, he had to find a solution. He didn't want to give up using sword principle until the last moment. After all, his goal was to reach the top 10 with sword principle. Enlightenment. Enlightenment in a life and death situation. No one dared to have such thoughts. At this point, they were still thinking about how to comprehend the sword principle and improve their combat strength in battle. For most people, this was simply impossible. While Chen Hao was healing his injuries, his heart gradually calmed down and he immersed himself in the sword principle's profound meaning. At this moment, his aura quietly changed. The aura of man, sword, and sword gradually merged into one. He, who stood proudly with his sword, seemed to have turned into a treasured sword that connected heaven and earth. Sword intent, pure and non-elemental sword intent, began to blossom in his spiritual platform, forming a sword-shaped shadow that enveloped his body. It's useless. You're the first to force me to this point. This time, I won't hold back. You should be proud that you can die under the true power of the immortal slaying art. Shi Chao's cold voice sounded. Boom. Immediately, the immortal slaying art was the first to be released. In an instant, the entire sky fell into endless darkness. Under the envelopment of the boundless aura of destruction, boundless pressure, and deathly silence, not to mention Chen Hao who was at the front, even the people from the two sides that were spectating in the surroundings felt as if the end of the world had arrived, and it was terrifying to the extreme. This time, the power was at least twice as strong as before, completely exceeding the limits of Shi Chao's own energy. There was no doubt that under the pressure brought by the fatty, Shi Chao broke through his own shackles and his little universe erupted. Qi! 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 Chen Hao's injuries had not healed, but he had to forcefully raise his energy again. He continuously released sword after sword, but he could not stop the devouring of the destructive black hole. Blood flowed from his mouth, his arm was broken, and his body flew backward again. However, Chen Hao controlled the treasured sword with his mind and slashed out again. Boom! Boom! Every time the sword was released, the space would collapse. In the narrow passage, energy raged and explosions were continuous. Ao Guang and the others had to retreat again and again. They were extremely nervous. Strong, it was simply too strong. Such an attack was simply not something that anyone present could withstand. Chen Hao retreated again and again. He was in the most dangerous battle of his life. Danger surrounded him, and he could die at any time under the immortal slaying art. Too strong. Immortal slaying art, immortal slaying. I'm afraid it's his own great Tao. Otherwise, it's impossible to break out so much beyond his own realm. Chen Hao thought to himself. No one knew that until now, Chen Hao was still resisting the terrifying immortal slaying art while comprehending the supreme sword Tao contained in Miao Xian's vital yin inheritance. He was constantly comprehending the feeling of evolving in his hands. At this time, although he was completely at a disadvantage and was defending more than attacking, the sword light that he controlled with his mind became smoother and smoother. There was a kind of natural sword Tao charm. At this moment, Chen Hao was like a real sword cultivator. Looking at the sword light coming and going, looking at the birth and death of the runes, and letting the destruction descend and be annihilated, his heart was calm. Only the true essence of sword Tao was in his mind, verified by every move. He was immersed in the battle, but he was detached from the battlefield. He had completely thrown the pain of his body and soul to the back of his mind. Heaven, earth, sword, man, heaven and earth as one, heaven and man as one, heaven and sword as one, man and sword as one. Heaven is the sword, earth is the sword, I am the sword is heaven, the sword is earth, the sword is me, heaven and earth, sword and man as one. No heaven, no earth, no me, only the sword. In this detached state of mind, Chen Hao's body and soul became naturally ethereal. In the face of life and death, he forgot himself and became more and more free. Man and sword as one, sword and Tao as one, Tao as one. Chapter 1384. Gradually, Chen Hao clearly felt that his body, soul, and state of mind were beginning to harmonize with heaven and earth, until they were completely harmonized. After stepping into the Daluo Golden Wonderland for so many years, this was the first time Chen Hao had captured the aura of the great perfection stage of, heaven and earth as me, and I as heaven and earth. A mysterious and profound feeling appeared in his heart, boom. It was also at this moment that Chen Hao's body suddenly shook, and endless dense qi gushed out from his body. In just an instant, his injuries were healed, and even the marks of the immortal slaying art were directly destroyed by the dense qi, instantly disappearing without a trace. What? Ah! Countless cries of surprise rang out. No one had expected Fatty to break through the shackles of his own realm during the battle, and step into the great perfection stage from the peak of the late stage of the Daluo Golden Wonderland. Although this was only a small increase in realm, the mysterious aura brought about by breaking through the shackles of his own body allowed Chen Hao to directly return to his peak state. Boom! Boom boom boom. The immortal blood qi filled the air, and a majestic and terrifying essence, qi, and spirit soared into the sky, like an incomparably sharp sword light piercing through the sky. At this moment, Chen Hao felt that heaven and earth were moving because of him, and tens of thousands of Daos were resonating with him. He, who had advanced to the great perfection stage, felt an unprecedented power amidst this wonderful dense qi. All the profound meanings of the lost arts that he had comprehended before appeared clearly in his mind. The profound meanings of the lost arts and Daos that he had comprehended but could not fully comprehend for the time being were now integrated, and he broke through the barrier of his own comprehension. Boom 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 boom, endless heaven and earth spiritual qi suddenly gathered madly towards Chen Hao, directly pouring into Chen Hao's body through every pore of his body. Chen Hao felt that at this moment, he was like a dry sponge that had encountered water. There was no need for him to activate it, and the heaven and earth spiritual qi madly integrated into every cell of his body, causing his physical aura to soar at an astonishing speed. Power. A powerful sense of power that controlled everything spread in Chen Hao's heart. He felt that at this moment, he had the power to shatter the void with his fists, and was omnipotent. Roar. Chen Hao couldn't help but let out a long howl at the sky. Rumble rumble rumble. The roar was like a thunderous roar, transforming into a terrifying sound wave attack that rushed towards Shi Chao, whose expression had become extremely grave. Qi. At the same time, Chen Hao brandished his sword and violently launched a fierce counterattack, approaching Shi Chao. Boom. Shi Chao was incomparably cold as he madly activated the immortal vanquishing chant. He raised his strength to the limit and violently welcomed the attack. Boom 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 boom, but this time, Shi Chao, who had always had the upper hand, was forced back by Chen Hao. Shi Chao's heart trembled. He knew that at this moment, Chen Hao had improved to a level that was not inferior to his own. Especially when Chen Hao was still in the peak state brought about by a small increase in cultivation level and in the realm of the fusion of all methods. No matter which point it was disadvantageous to him. Bang! Shi Chao suddenly launched an extremely powerful attack. His figure retreated rapidly like a swimming dragon, drifting unpredictably. Even Chen Hao's pressure was unable to lock onto his qi. Humph, let's see how long you can last. Shi Chao snorted coldly. You've only just reached the great perfection stage and have aroused your strongest battle strength. Once the realm of the fusion of all methods disappears, what do you have to fight me with? Ha ha ha. Don't try to lock onto my qi. My state of mind has completely surpassed the limits of my cultivation level. No matter how strong your pressure is, you can't lock onto me who is countless realms higher than you. Today, you're dead for sure. Shi Chao's divine transformation was like a divine dragon roaming the horizon, drifting unpredictably as he fought with Chen Hao. He needed time to recover and also time to wait for Chen Hao's strongest state to pass. At that time, it would be time for him to kill Chen Hao. No one could force him into such a situation and continue to live well. Is that so? Buzz. Chen Hao countered with a question. His body suddenly shook, and he actually stopped. Hiss. Shortly after, the fatty, whose lips curled into a cold arc, vanished into thin air. Yes, he disappeared into thin air. There was no surge of Taoist law, nor was there any fluctuation of qi. He just disappeared into thin air. No one, including Shi Chao, could sense a trace of Chen Hao's qi. What a powerful concealment technique. Amazing, there's no qi at all. Countless people exclaimed in surprise. At this point, no one could predict the final result. Whether it was Shi Chao or the fat man, both of them had endless trump cards. How could they predict? Just as Qin Wanxiang had said, even he, a true immortal king, could not predict who was stronger among the monstrous disciples. Only after a real battle would it be clear. Merging with everything in the world. Chen Hao finally used this abnormal concealment technique once again. Just as Shi Chao had said, Chen Hao was indeed unable to lock onto Shi Chao, who had completely surpassed his own cultivation level. Since that was the case, he had no choice but to move himself into the shadows. What a powerful concealment technique! Shi Chao immediately frowned. Although he was confident in his movement technique, the foundation of his movement technique was to know the enemy's location. At this moment, he could not even sense a trace of Chen Hao's qi. How could he use this technique to target him? Humph! Are you trying to escape? Since you're a coward, don't blame me for forcing you to show yourself. Junior brothers and sisters, listen to my order. Work together to seal off the rear. Shi Chao gave the order almost instantly. His cold voice was filled with endless killing intent. Yes, senior brother. Qi. 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 The disciples of Tanglong Academy, who had retreated far away, immediately gathered their strength. In an instant, runes floated out, and 99 people worked together to seal off the retreat. For Chen Hao and the others from Dahua Academy, there was a barrier in front of them that they had not comprehended for the time being, and 99 people working together to seal off the rear. To put it bluntly, they were like turtles in a jar. As long as Shi Chao and the others from Tanglong Academy were strong enough, they could definitely kill Chen Hao and the others one by one. Kill them. Shi Chao's cold voice sounded again. Senior brother Shi Chao, are we really going to kill them? Senior brother Shi Chao, we're brothers after all, nonsense. So what if we're brothers? This is a competition. When enemies meet on a narrow path, the brave will win. Put away your motherfucking benevolence and obey the commander's orders unconditionally. Otherwise, you'll be killed without mercy. A disciple from Tanglong Academy with a powerful aura shouted sternly. Yes. Boom. Boom. Although there were still a few people who were unwilling, at this point, no one dared to disobey the order. Fuck. Motherfucker, do you think we're afraid of you? Boom. 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 Ao Guang, Ling Feng, Shui Fian, Wan Yishui, and the other disciples from Dahua Academy were all furious. No one had expected things to develop to this point. They did not expect Shi Chao to be so ruthless. Chapter 1385. At this moment, no one retreated. Only the brave would emerge victorious. Everyone was clear about this. Even though most of the disciples from Daoist University felt that they weren't as strong as Tanglong University, they could only fight to the death when the other party wanted to kill them all. That way, they would still have a chance to live. Otherwise, they would only be at the mercy of others. Boom. Ao Guang waved his Rui Jingu bang violently. Ling Feng's heavenly steed soaring sky art took the lead. Runes shone around Shui Fian's body. She, whose body had become a weapon, released her aura without holding back. Wang. At this moment, Wan Yishui also made his move. In an instant, the aura of the green jade ripple technique spread out like a breeze. The moment the disciples of Daoist University came into contact with this aura, they felt refreshed and their spirits clear. It was as though they had just broken through the barrier of cultivation and felt much stronger. Qi. After giving the order, Shi Chao also took the lead and charged towards Daoist University. He was going to start a massacre. Even though he didn't show it, the fatty's strength, especially his abnormal ability to comprehend and grow in battle, made him feel an enormous threat. If this conflict had never started, it would have been fine. But since it had started, it couldn't end here. Even if he let the fatty go now, the way he saw it, the fatty would never let him go in the future. This was because he knew that fatty wasn't an ordinary person. This kind of monstrous genius wasn't inferior to him. On the path to the peak, he couldn't allow any flaws in his state of mind. This was a battle of face and luck. Because of this, after seeing Fatty's heaven-defying concealment technique, he had to use all means to force Fatty to show himself. Because he didn't want to be remembered by a monstrous genius. Boom! Just as Shi Chao was about to clash with Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and Xue Fian, the space between the two parties suddenly shook. Boundless killing aura bloomed, and a majestic and terrifying pressure erupted like a mountain and a sea. Chen Hao was forced to show himself. You really want to start a massacre? Chen Hao stared coldly at Shi Chao and said coldly. That depends on you. Shi Chao paused and waved his hand behind him. His gaze was similarly cold as he stared at Chen Hao. What do you mean? It's very simple. You die, they live. You escape, they die, but you might not be able to escape. Are you kidding? Chen Hao frowned slightly. Do I look like someone who jokes? Ao Guang, who had already arrived behind Chen Hao, pointed at Shi Chao and shouted angrily, bullshit your mother. What right do you have to decide the life and death of Fatty Bro and us? Brother Fatty, don't waste your breath on them. Let's fight. Hiss. Wani Shui silently arrived at Chen Hao's side, her fine black hair fluttering in the wind. The extremely powerful blue silk jade ripple technique had already been brewing in her body to the extreme. As long as Chen Hao gave the order, it would explode with a loud bang. Losers, a single strike from me is enough to destroy you all. Shi Chao glared at Ao Guang and Ling Feng. He then turned to Chen Hao and said, your aura is similar to Chen Ritian's. Why isn't he here? If he was here, perhaps you would have the qualifications to fight against our Tang Long Academy. When Shi Chao sensed Fatty's aura, he felt that Fatty's aura was familiar, but he had never seen it before. Now, Fatty's killing intent was completely released, which made Shi Chao think of Chen Ritian, who he had fought before. Obviously, the news of Fatty's return before the ranking competition had not spread to Tang Long Academy. Otherwise, Shi Chao would not have said such words. And now, it's very easy for us to destroy you. You can try to escape with your concealment skills. They will be killed by us, and then you will be caught. Or, you fight with me. Die, and I will let them go. Although Shi Chao felt that Fatty and Hua Hua Academy's gazes were a little strange, he did not think too much about it. You want me to die so badly? Of course. Do we have a grudge? Not before. Now, do you think I will allow a threatening opponent to continue living? I don't like being remembered by someone who is not inferior to me. What you said makes sense. Are you done? What, do you think I'm wrong? Or do you think I'm talking big? Your myriad Tao resonance state is gone, right? Killing you is like killing a chicken. Is that so? You all think so too. To everyone's surprise, Chen Hao looked at Tang Long Academy's disciple behind Shi Chao and asked. Do you even need to say it? Fatty, you're dead. Just kill yourself, so that you won't die in pain. Wani Shui is your Tao companion, right? Don't worry, after you die, I can reluctantly take care of her for you. Ha ha ha. If you can't do it alone, we brothers will take care of her together. I guarantee that she will want to die, ha ha ha, brother Shi Chao, since it has come to this, in my opinion, you don't have to be merciful. I think it's better to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Also, it's not easy to fight, let us brothers gain something. Xue Fian is a good girl. If brother Shi Chao can get her primordial yin, it might be of great use to you. Yes, a few of them are not bad, hee, I'm getting excited. Among the Tang Long Academy's disciples, several male disciples with powerful auras laughed lewdly. Many of the male disciples were provoked by their lewd words, and their gazes toward the female disciples of the Dehua Academy became lewd. The Dehua Academy's disciples were all furious. However, none of them said anything despite Fatty's voice transmission, and they allowed the other party to tease and ridicule them. The smile on Fatty's face became more and more intense. The murderous aura on his body disappeared and was replaced by a strange aura. His eyes were especially colorful, and he attracted the gazes of the Tang Long Academy's disciples. 19. Fatty uttered a baffling sentence. Shi Chao stared at the fatty's eyes and frowned slightly. He instinctively felt a trace of danger. Unfortunately, in a short moment, he was unable to see through Qin Hao's Red Dust Heart Sutra, which had already returned to its original state. Remember to be a good person in your next life. Buzz. Hiss. Chi chi chi. Just when no one understood Qin Hao's meaning, Wan Yishui's azure silk blue ripple technique suddenly bloomed, combining with the powerful emotional influence of Qin Hao's Red Dust Heart Sutra. At the same time, the incomparably sharp sword light, 19 sword lights, suddenly appeared out of thin air in front of the 19 people, silent. Before the 19 people could react, their eyebrows were pierced by the incomparably sharp sword light. Boom! Rumble, Qin Hao's body became one with the sword, and with boundless murderous intent, he violently rushed toward Shi Chao. Ah! Screams of horror rang out. Whether it was the Tang Long Academy's disciples or the Dehua Academy's disciples, they were all scared silly by Fatty's terrifying attack. Chapter 1386. Impossible, impossible. How did you do that? How is this possible? Ah! Shi Chao was even more terrified. No matter what, he never thought that Qin Hao would be so terrifying. He had actually killed 19 people from the Tang Long Academy in one move right under his nose, including 2 experts from the Tang Long Academy who were second only to him. How was this possible? Even he couldn't do that. What kind of ability was that sword light that appeared out of nowhere? Shi Chao discovered that the emotional power emitted from Qin Hao's eyes was the secular Heart Sutra, but he didn't think that it would have much of an effect on the others. At the same time, he also sensed the aura of Wan Yishui's Azure Silk Jade Wave technique. He also didn't think that it would have much of an effect. The truly powerful thing was Qin Hao's sword light that had appeared out of nowhere. Not to mention the fact that the 19 people were momentarily stunned. Even if they didn't appear, it would be difficult for them to escape this heaven-defying attack. He had concealed himself too well, and it was too sudden. Even if it was him, he would still be in a difficult situation. Boom. Boom boom boom. Unfortunately, Shi Chao didn't have time to be surprised. Even if he reacted and wanted to help, he couldn't because Qin Hao, who had become one with his sword, was already in front of him. He could only meet him head-on. He furiously gathered his power and charged toward Qin Hao. Heavens! Heavens, dead, dead. One move, just one move, 19 people, is he still human? How can he be so strong? The disciples of the Tang Long Academy retreated in horror, afraid that Qin Hao would kill them in one move. Moreover, Shi Chao and Qin Hao, who had started fighting again, were indeed not people they could approach. Just the energy shockwaves alone were enough to destroy them. At this time, they also understood what the fatty meant by 19 people. They were the disciples who had spoken to Wan Yishui and Xue Fian and supported the annihilation of the Dahua Academy. Qin Hao's words of, "Be good in your next life," still rang in their ears. They didn't think much of it before, but now, they felt a chill down their spines, especially when they thought of the fatty's smile that was getting more and more intense. To him, we're just ants. Fortunately, most of us aren't too evil. Otherwise, we might have ended up like those 19 people. The Tang Long Academy's disciples thought to themselves. They knew very well that Qin Hao could kill 19 of them without making a sound, and 2 of them were second only to Shi Chao among them. Then, killing them again would not be a problem. That sword light that appeared out of thin air was really too terrifying. In their opinion, it was definitely related to the fatty's concealment lost art. It was very likely to be the ultimate lost art in the world of assassins. Is this Fatty's true strength? Brother Fatty is actually this strong. Amazing. Damn it, I'm temporarily. Cough cough. I'm afraid I'll have to be convinced in the future. Fat bro is really too awesome. Shui Fian, Ao Guang, Ling Feng, and the others were also shocked. Only Wani Shui was relatively calm. This was because Qin Hao had done the same thing in the Emperor's Star Secret Realm. Furthermore, he had joined forces with her. The only difference was that this time, Qin Hao used Miao Xian's unique sword skill, which was the sword light that appeared out of thin air when Miao Xian used to control Wani Shui. Boom 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 boom, the scene once again turned into a battle between Qin Hao and Shi Chao. However, Shi Chao, who was previously insufferably arrogant, was now completely suppressed by Qin Hao. Even if Shi Chao used his erratic movement lost its effect. It was not that Qin Hao was able to lock onto his aura, but that Qin Hao was like burying landmines. He had set up countless hidden sword lights in the space around them. Shi Chao could run into them at any time. If not for his extraordinary strength, he would have been finished. Aren't you very awesome? Is that all you've got? Fatty's mocking voice suddenly rang out. At this moment, Shi Chao, who was previously awesome and completely suppressed Qin Hao, was now in a difficult situation due to Fatty's unpredictable sword light. Humph. I didn't expect you to have such a powerful sword skill. Similarly, I didn't expect your myriad Dao resonance to last so long. However, at most, you've forced me to this point. When your myriad Dao resonance disappears, I'd like to see how you're going to fight me. Shi Chao said proudly. Suddenly, his expression changed and he said, however, I admit that I've underestimated your strength. Now, let's stop the battle and wait for the individual competition to decide who's the winner. Do you think I'll agree? Qin Hao smiled again and his attack did not weaken at all. If you're smart, you'll naturally agree. I, Shi Chao, am the reincarnation of the Celestial Emperor. Do you think you have the ability to kill me? When your myriad Dao resonance disappears, you'll be no match for me. Of course, if I want to kill you, I'm afraid I'll have to pay the price with them. That's not what I want. Is that so? What does it have to do with me whether you want it or not? I'll do whatever you say. Who do you think you are? When you were strong, you wanted to kill me and destroy De Hua. Now that I'm strong, you want to stop the battle. How can there be such a good thing in this world? Are you out of your mind or kicked by a donkey? I'll tell you clearly. Now, I'm going to do what you wanted to do to me and De Hua. It's very fair. If you die, they live. If you escape, they die. Of course, you can't escape. So, if you die, they scram. Ah, Qin Hao's sudden words caused the disciples of Tanglong Academy to widen their eyes in shock. They became nervous and could not help but take a step back. Well said. Brother Fatty, kill this bastard. Motherfucker, do you think we're stupid? Do you think you can do whatever you want? Ao Qian said. Why aren't you scramming? Do you want us to attack? Let's go. Chi. Ling Feng was even more direct. Scram immediately or die. Chi chi chi, in an instant, all 99 people from De Hua Academy moved. They soared into the sky with high battle intent and charged toward Tanglong Academy. They have a few good women. We can enjoy them too. Ha ha ha, that's right. That's a good idea. It's a pity to scram, a disciple from De Hua Academy said. 19 people from Tanglong Academy were killed by Qin Hao in one move. Most of them were experts among them. Shi Chao was suppressed by Qin Hao. De Hua Academy had an obvious advantage. No. However, at this time, Qin Hao suddenly said. Although he did not stop them from charging toward Tanglong Academy, when he heard someone say that, he disagreed. Brother Fatty, we're just giving them a taste of their own medicine. What the brothers said is right. Although I don't like it, if the brothers want to have fun, we'll let them have fun. Moreover, they can improve. Let them have fun. Ling Feng said. Chapter 1387. If someone punches you, you can punch back. If a dog bites you, you bite back. Just kill. We won't do despicable things. This is my principle. If you treat me as your brother, you'll listen. If you don't treat me as your brother, you can do whatever you want. I won't interfere. Moreover, I've already killed the person who wanted to do this to us. Chen Hao said as he fought. This was his bottom line. Even if this kind of thing was nothing in the cruel cultivation world, Chen Hao was extremely disdainful of this kind of behavior. What was the difference between that and a beast? Boom boom boom. Amidst the terrifying energy explosion, Ling Feng and the others were stunned by the fatty's words. They said awkwardly, "Fatty bro is right. Forget it then. Why aren't you scramming? Otherwise, die." Chi. Chi chi chi. Ling Feng and the others were slightly embarrassed. They gathered their energy and continued to fly toward the Tanglong Academy disciples. Indeed, the person who wanted to do this to them had already been killed by Chen Hao. If they did the same to the remaining ones, what was the difference between them and those people? To put it bluntly, this was indeed a despicable method. No one is allowed to run. Kill them all. Don't worry, this damn fatty can't beat me. The final victory will belong to us. Kill. Although Shi Chao was at a disadvantage, he was still not flustered. Moreover, the greater the pressure, the stronger the aura he released. He seemed to be getting braver as he fought. Chen Hao couldn't help but admire him. The spirit of all things was indeed the strongest inheritor in the world. Yes. Kill. 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 What Chen Hao didn't expect was Shi Chao's powerful rallying power among the Tanglong Academy disciples. Originally, in Chen Hao's opinion, at this point, the Tanglong Academy's disciples would definitely be defeated and flee for their lives. However, with just a few words from Shi Chao, none of the remaining 80 people actually fled. Each and every one of them gathered their strength, their fighting spirit soaring. This wasn't what Chen Hao wanted. After all, once it was a chaotic battle, there would definitely be casualties. It wasn't something he could control. However, at this point, he could only let it develop. Then kill. Be careful. Yi Shui, cooperate with Ling Feng, Ao Guang, and Fei Yan. Kill. Chen Hao ordered. Understood. Chi. Without any hesitation, Wan Yishui pushed the green silk blue ripple technique to the extreme. At the same time, he merged the power of his emotions. In the end, the war still broke out. Boom. Boom. Ah, kill. In the blink of an eye, the situation was completely out of control. Countless divine abilities and ultimate techniques floated out. Terrifying energy wreaked havoc. Battle cries, screams, and energy explosions caused the sky to darken. Ao Qian's staff swept through the world with an incomparably domineering aura. Ling Feng's folding fan was like a sharp blade when opened and a staff when closed, killing without blinking. Xue Fian had even transformed into a humanoid weapon, incomparably ferocious. Wan Yishui had become their strongest support. Wherever they passed by, the enemies would be disrupted by Wan Yishui's powerful illusions, greatly reducing their combat strength. Chen Hao, who was originally a little worried, did not expect that the situation would be one-sided in just a moment. The cooperation of Ao Qian's group of 4 was simply unstoppable, crushing everything like a hot knife through butter. Even if Chen Hao made a move, it would not be much better either. Looks like I underestimated their combat strength. No, it's Sister Shui's role that's too strong. Chen Hao thought to himself. At this time, Shi Chao's face had turned ashen, and his anger soared to the sky. He was a little doubtful. Was this really the Dahua Academy that had been trampled by their Tanglong Academy for countless years? All of you must die. Roar. Seeing his people fall into a pool of blood one by one, Shi Chao finally went berserk. In an instant, as if he had fallen into a state of madness, his essence, vitality, vitality, physical strength, true yuan, and spiritual power directly gushed out like a volcanic eruption. At the same time, a rune full of endless divine aura appeared between his eyebrows, blooming with a bright divine golden light. The moment it appeared, the world lost its color. Even Chen Hao's mind went blank for a moment. He stared blankly at the golden, divine rune between Shi Chao's eyebrows. Godhood. Only a fully awakened spirit of all things would have a godhood. This was the best proof of being a spirit of all things, and also the strongest power of a spirit of all things. Without a doubt, this was Shi Chao's greatest reliance. Heavens, what's that? So terrifying. I actually don't dare to resist, I actually want to worship. Godhood, this is a godhood that only an immortal emperor can obtain. Only a fully awakened spirit of all things can use it. Thump. Thump. Thump, cries of alarm came from the mouths of the two academy's disciples. Immediately, some of the weaker ones could no longer control themselves and prostrated themselves one after another. Even Ao Qian, Ling Feng, Xue Fian, and Wani Shui were no exception. In just a moment, the entire battlefield was completely silent. Everyone's eyes were filled with fear and shock as they stared blankly at the godlike Shi Chao, kneeling on the ground. Only a fat figure was trembling violently, desperately resisting the urge to kneel. Die, all of you must die. Shi Chao's cold voice sounded. Damn fatty, you can actually resist the pressure of my godhood? You're indeed very strong, and you even forced my godhood out and used its power. Do you know what this means? It means that you've destroyed my possibility of creating a new great Tao. Endless reincarnation for a stronger Tao, but I've already fully awakened, and now I've used the power of the godhood. You've destroyed my hope, and my endless years of hard work have all been destroyed in a single day. I'll completely refine you, obtain your godhood, and imprison you for eternity, unable to enter reincarnation, to resolve the hatred in my heart. Wang! A giant hand that covered the sky suddenly appeared. Although the power it contained did not increase by much, the Tao law it contained at this moment was terrifying to the extreme, and it was in a category that Chen Hao could not comprehend at all. It directly enveloped Chen Hao. Godhood. Once a spirit of all things was fully awakened, the godhood that once belonged to him would appear. However, although the godhood at this time had the aura of the celestial emperor realm, it had turned into the embryonic form of the godhood, and it could be molded. Once a cultivator took a step forward on a new great Tao that was most compatible with the spirit of all things, a part of the godhood would solidify, and when the great Tao was completed, the godhood would merge the two strongest Taos into one. At that time, it would definitely be much stronger than the Tao of the celestial emperor realm. However, if the power of the godhood was used before the new great Tao was formed, the embryonic form of the godhood would be fixed, and it would lose the possibility of being molded. How could Shi Chao not be angry? Moreover, in Shi Chao's opinion, the fatty must be the spirit of all things, or else he would not be able to resist the pressure of the godhood and not kneel on the ground. Another point was the speed at which the Taoist Academy advanced in the myriad Tao space, which was enough to prove this point. However, the fatty should be the spirit of all things that had not fully awakened. As long as he refined him, he would be able to obtain the godhood, and then he would be able to seal Chen Hao forever. Moreover, he would be able to comprehend powerful ultimate techniques from the godhood, which would more or less make up for it. Chapter 1388. Everyone stared at the scene in shock. Wani Shui, Ao Qian, and the others all watched helplessly as Shi Chao's hand that covered the sky grabbed Chen Hao. They desperately wanted to get up and help, but no matter how hard they tried, it was to no avail. No one had expected the situation to turn around so quickly. No one had expected Shi Chao, the spirit of all creation, to be so powerful. Don't worry, I won't refine you so quickly. That's your woman, right? Wani Shui, come here. Chi. With a burst of energy, Wani Shui flew uncontrollably in front of Shi Chao, unable to resist. Unable to speak, unable to control his body, Wan Yishui, who still had some consciousness, could only glare at Shi Chao with incomparable anger. You don't like dirty things, right? I didn't like it at first, but since you don't like it, I'll do it right in front of you. You dare. You, what do you want to do? Chen Hao, who was also resisting Shi Chao's god force, gathered all his strength and shouted. Just as he finished speaking, one of his knees suddenly fell. Just as he was about to kneel on one knee, Chen Hao once again used his strong willpower to forcibly control himself. No one knew that at this moment, Chen Hao's mind was filled with the Sanskrit Grand Tao, Heart Sutra, Diamond Sutra, Avatamsaka Sutra, and other profound sutras that Chen Hao knew but couldn't fully comprehend. His special ability, the Delusion Breaker Eye, was useless because this wasn't just illusion, but an incomparably powerful god force. The true pressure of the Grand Tao and realm. If he wanted to break through, he had to surpass his mental state. Ha ha ha, what are you doing? I have no interest in women who have lost their reason, but they might be interested. You, and you, go for me. Ha ha ha. Chi. Chi. No one expected Shi Chao to be so evil. Ling Feng and Ao Qian were pulled over. Ha ha ha. I want to know how you feel about your brother messing with your woman in front of you. Ha ha ha. Ao Qian and Ling Feng vomited blood. Their faces were filled with anger, fear, and humiliation. He had seen evil people before, but he had never seen such an evil and heartless person. However, no matter how they struggled, it was futile. Despair spread in the hearts of the two of them and Wan Yishui. They knew that even if they were lucky enough to not die after this, they would not have the face to continue living. That sort of humiliation was not something that ordinary people could endure. How dare you? Chen Hao was infuriated, and he shouted once more with a grim voice. Humiliation, the kind of humiliation that he had never felt before, ruthlessly ravaged Chen Hao's soul. Chen Hao's eyes had turned scarlet, and a monstrous killing intent swirled in his eyes. Unfortunately, under the pressure of the Godhead, he couldn't even release his killing intent. At this moment, Chen Hao felt like he was a burning furnace, but he was sealed and completely insulated from the outside world. As the burning became more intense and longer, Chen Hao clearly felt that he was going to explode. However, not only did he not control himself, he burned even more crazily. Even if he had to self-destruct, even if he had to destroy everything here, he couldn't let his woman, his brothers, and himself suffer such humiliation. Ha ha ha. Why wouldn't I dare? Under the powerful pressure of my Godhead, you don't even have the chance to resist. What, you want to burn yourself and explode? Impossible, you underestimate the power of my Godhead too much. Come, let's begin. Qi. Qi. 3 mysterious runes suddenly shot out from Shi Chao's fingertips and entered Wan Yishui, Ao Guang, and Ling Feng's foreheads. Then, the three's movements were completely controlled. Rip! Ling Feng and Ao Qian tore their robes at the same time, leaving their upper bodies bare. Ah! Seeing that Wan Yishui was about to move, Chen Hao suddenly looked up at the sky and roared. Explode for me! Boom! Between his eyebrows, a 9-colored brilliance suddenly bloomed, and a strange rune suddenly appeared. Boom! 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 In an instant, terrifying air explosions appeared continuously, filling the sky and spreading in all directions. The cultivators who were kneeling on the ground could barely lift their heads to see what was happening, but at this moment, the pressure of the entire space suddenly increased by many times. One by one, they were stuck to the ground with a bang, unable to move at all. No one knew what had happened. They only knew that this terrifying change was caused by Fatty's heart-wrenching roar. Puff! It was also at this moment that Shi Chao's face suddenly changed. His eyes were filled with endless horror as he stared fixedly at the space between Chen Hao's eyebrows. He spat out a mouthful of blood and wanted to say something. Unfortunately, before he could open his mouth, his body collapsed to the ground uncontrollably. He was no different from the others. Never enter the reincarnation cycle. Absorb. Chi. A cold voice filled with endless killing intent burst out from Chinhao's mouth and clearly entered everyone's ears. Unfortunately, no one could raise their heads to see the scene in the void. Ah! They only heard Shi Chao's shrill and desperate cry. Then, the terrifying pressure gradually disappeared, and one by one, they began to regain their freedom. Fatty. Wan Yishui threw herself directly into Chinhao's arms. It's okay, it's all over. Fatty comforted her. Brother Fatty. Brother Fatty, I'm sorry. We're useless and made you, use your godhead. Ling Feng said with a serious expression. Although he did not see Fatty's godhead, he concluded that Fatty had used his godhead, which was many times more powerful than Shi Chao's, to prevent this tragedy from happening. They also heard Shi Chao's words just now. Using the power of the godhead meant that all his efforts would be in vain. At best, he could only restore the strength of the immortal emperor realm. It was almost impossible for him to make any more progress. Godhead? What godhead do I have? Don't talk nonsense, no one can do anything to such an inhumane guy. However, what surprised Ling Feng and the others was that the Fatty actually said such a thing. Moreover, he didn't give Ling Feng and the others a chance to ask. He directly looked at the trembling disciples of the Tanglong Academy and said, "You all know what happened. As a brother academy, I don't want to be ruthless. However, if you dare to speak nonsense, I, Li Yuan, guarantee that none of you will live for long. You can go now." Thank you. It's our fault, the winner is king, we won't distort the truth. Goodbye. Let's go. Chi. 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 The remaining disciples of Tanglong Academy quickly left with lingering fear. They knew that even if Fatty killed them, they could not resist. Moreover, no one could do anything to Fatty, just like how Shi Chao wanted to kill all the people of Hua Shan Academy. The so-called, not to kill the innocent, had no restrictions at all. However, Fatty had let them go.